सर किछि तो पार्टिसिपेंट नाहंती आरंभ करि दोछि
Start.
Okay sir. Okay. So students, we are discussing regarding the paper 103 block 2. Last class we have already discussed up to the unit 7, and we are discussing regarding the classroom management and what are the different types of communication and what are the conditions necessary for effective communications. So already we have discussed regarding the conditions necessary for effective communication, and I think today we will start from what are the different types of communications are there. So whenever suppose we are communicating with others, according to the change in time and change in place, those communications also differ. And uh, the formal communication and the informal communication and taking a class, providing the feedback, these all are the different types of communications. So whenever first of all we must have the depth idea regarding how communication differ from situation to situation, from time to time, so that we can take the best use of our communication according to the need. Suppose take example when we are talking with someone else, so we can call it as a formal communication. But suppose as a resource person or as a teacher, you are taking a class, so definitely that communication differ. It is not the formal communication. It is the, we can say this is the communication. It is it must be effective communication. How it differ? It means there is a objective. There is a motto for which purpose we are going to communicate. But formally, when we are talking with our friends, with our colleagues in a group, so may not having a goal. So on the basis of the objectives and on the basis of the goals and on the basis of the need, our communication is going to differ. And that, as we can told that this is one formal communication, another is the informal communication. But sometimes not only the formal communication is also going to differ in different types, as providing the feedback. Providing feedback means that there must be certain points, there must be certain questions, and on the basis of those questions and the points, we are going to provide our own experience, our own answers. So that can be called as a providing the feedback, and that communication is differ from the formal communication. It means different types of formal communications are there, like providing suggestions, providing feedback, and we can say that the communication is for the purpose of motivating. As we know, the preachers, as we can tell that teaching and preaching are the two different things, and what is the difference is that here the motto is different in preaching and in teaching. Mostly we can, by observing as a layman, we can tell that same thing is going on. A person is going to teach something to the audience or to the students, but here the what is the difference is that the motto is different, the objective and the goal is different. So like this, there are the different types of communications are there. So when we are communicating, we must have in-depth knowledge regarding those different types of communication. And if we are conscious that for which purpose we are going to communicate, definitely it will make us conscious at a time of communicating. So what are the minimum criteria required for the communication? First of all, language. Language plays a very important role for communicating between two individuals. When we are talking regarding the language, कौन कहला?
स्क्रीन विजिबल होउनी
ना ना मु स्क्रीन शेयर करिनी, मु खाली जस्ट कहूची तापर मु स्क्रीन शेयर करिनी.
आज्ञा एटा 103 पेपर यूनिट 2 पढाउछु.
ना 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 एटा होची ब्लॉक 2 रो यूनिट 7 हमें डिस्कशन करूचे. जस्ट टिके रहि जाइतला लास्ट क्लास, हम यूनिट 7 टा डिस्कशन करूचे. Classroom management जोटा types of communication, what are the different conditions required for the communication, से यूनिट टा में डिस्कशन करूचे. बुझी परलो?
आज्ञा मैडम.
Okay. So ଆମେ already discussion କଲେ ଯେ କଣ communication ଅଛି ଯେମିତି formal, informal. Again, formal ରେ providing suggestion, providing feedback, teaching, preaching. So these all are the different types of communication. But there are certain conditions are there which will make our communication more effective and more objective oriented. So what is that? One thing is that, as I already told to you, language. As we know, the language used by the communicator must be understandable by the students or by the audience. Otherwise, if I am going to speak in one language, you are you the who to whom I am going to communicate, if they are not understanding that language, that communication has no value. So language must be understandable by both. And when we are talking regarding language, we are not only talking regarding the verbal language, a non-verbal language is also plays a very important role for communicating. As here we can say that we are communicating with each other. You are the students, and as a teacher, I'm going to communicate with you regarding specific content. But the thing is that I'm not going to see you. I'm not visible to you. You all are not visible to me. I'm unable to read your facial expressions. You are unable to see me. So definitely it is also a barrier. Okay. So we can say that in communication, nonverbal behavior plays also a very important role. Okay. Whether the students are able to understand or not. As a teacher, I can read that from their face. And when I'm going to explain also, only by listening the voice, you will not understand. The thing is that the facial expression, your gesture, your posture, your facial expression, your voice, your rhythm, these are all the things, clarity, these are all plays a very important role to make your communication more communicable. Okay. So, and one thing is that when the communication is going on, from both side, it must be free from ego. It means by having certain ego, if you are going to communicate, definitely that also unknowingly it is going to create a barrier. So when as a teacher and students we are going to communicate, both sides, the students and the teacher must be feel free to communicate and must be free from ego. So ego free objectivity must be there. uh, so you must be able to uh, uh, communicate by being beyond the boundary of the ego. Then only the communication will be the good one, and it will be more usable or more valuable, and it will provide much benefit to both to the teacher and to the students. Okay, so these are the certain things regarding communication. What are the conditions required for communication, and what are the different types of communication? Okay, so already we have completed up to the unit 7, and now we will start unit 8, and which is about the motivation, theories of motivation, and regarding the different theories, how it has the impact in the field of education, and what is stress management. These all the things are there in this unit. Okay, concept of stress, how to recognize the stress, and techniques for stress management. All these things today now we will discuss regarding motivation and about stress management. So before going to start, I will share my PPT, what I have prepared for all of you. Just one of you can confirm me that whether the screen is visible or not. Screen, it is visible. Screen is, अरे देखी पारछो स्क्रीन टा देखी पारछो देखी पारछो
ଆଜ୍ଞା
अच्छा ठीक ଅଛି। तो आमे वर्तमान एबे डिस्कशन करिबा मोटिवेशन विषय रे। मु भाबुची तमे ऑलरेडी ग्रेजुएशन लेवल रे भी मोटिवेशन विषय रे बहुत किछि ऑलरेडी पढिथिबो निश्चय होला। तो मते कहि परिबो कि वर्तमान कोन मोटिवेशन माने तमे कोन बुझुछ एंड हाउ इट डिफर फ्रॉम ड्राइव। ड्राइव कोन, मोटिवेशन कोन? वो मोटिवेशन माने तमे कोन बुझुछ? एटा मु मेंशन करिछि जे motivation is defined as an internal state that arouses, directs and maintains behavior. Okay, and जोटा कि आमे कहूँ interest, curiosity is called intrinsic motivation. Reward, incentive, and are called as the extrinsic motivation. It's sorry, it more spelling mistake है incentive टा भूल spelling error mistake है incentive, that is not CEN is missed here. Reward and incentive are called the extrinsic motivation. आ छोड़ा beyond तमे कौन बुझुचो कहबो के भी अच्छा present अच्छा class रे कहबो कौन माने कौन बुझुचो motivation माने कौन
Ma'am, motivation refers to a process of
yes
inciting and stimulating an individual to act in certain manner.
okay ठीक अच्छे आउ के कहबो आउ के अच्छा क्लास रे केते जण अच्छे रे क्लास रे आजी मु तो स्क्रीन शेयर कला पर जानी पारुनी देखि पारुनी
3 जण
3 जण अच्छे मात्र अच्छा ठीक
आज्ञा
अछि तो हमें एठी जदी कहिबा मोटिवेशन माने कोन आगुर तमे वर्ड गोटे ड्राइव भी सिखे सुनी थिबो ड्राइव सुनिचो ड्राइव माने ड्राइव वर्ड ता सुनिचो
मैम
सुनी
ट्राइब
ना हुआ हाँ किए कहूथुलो कुह
मैम ट्राइब या ड्राइव
ठीक अछि किए कहूथुलो कहिबो ना हमें डिस्कशन आरंभ करिबा
मैम आपण स्टार्ट कर
अच्छा ठीक अछि आमे जेतले कहूचे मोटिवेशन आमे एटा को कहिबा इट इज एन इंटरनल फोर्स मोटिवेशन रो अर्थ होची समथिंग व्हिच फोर्स अस टू डू द वर्क ओके जदि हमें एज अ लेमन भाबरे कहिबा गोटे साधारण लोक हिसाब रे कहिबा जे कोन मोटिवेशन माने समथिंग इंटरनल मोटिवेशन जो जिनसटा हमें देखि परिबानी we can say that it is a internal or it is a psychological disposition which force us to do something okay so that is called as the motivation but motivation is something different than drive it means on the basis of the physical things when we are forced on the based on the needs when we are going to do the things that can be called as the drive but something more than that on the basis of the physical needs also there are certain things which force us to do or to achieve something and that is called as the motivation again when we are talking regarding motivation can be called as also the two types as internal motivation and the intrinsic motivation and the extrinsic motivation intrinsic motivation means your own interest curiosity can be called as the intrinsic motivation but externally suppose something is going to be we are going to do something to motivate someone else so it is called as the extrinsic motivation as we can say providing the reward providing incentive providing feedback these all are can be called as the extrinsic motivation so without having the extrinsic motivation also uh, when some individual is automatically is able to do, interested to do something then we can call it as the intrinsic motivation but we know that without motivation one individual is not able to or not interested to do something else so that is a unseen thing we can say that motivation is such a thing which is not visible to us but which makes an individual or we can say which drives an individual towards its goal that can be called as the motivation okay so motivation plays a very important role in each and every field if an individual is not having the motivation we cannot assure of achievement or achieving a goal or achieving an objective. What are the things you are going to do? But if an individual is not himself or herself is motivated, or intrinsic motivation is not created, then it is not possible to do anything else. Okay, so motivation in the field of education also plays a very important role. And when we are talking regarding the classroom teaching, classroom management, and teaching to the children, motivation plays a very important role. And as a teacher, each and every teacher must have the sufficient knowledge regarding the motivation at the time of teaching. So we must know how we can motivate our children towards their goal. Okay, so this is the motivation. And in the field of the motivation, different theories are also developed, and different psychologists has given their own view regarding the motivation. And I think you must have in the graduation level also you must know about the Maslow's theory of motivation. Sunicha, Maslow's theory motivation, which is known as the hierarchy theory. ए विषय रे जानिछ ना जानि ना
आगे भाई
जानिछ एई थियोरीटा देखो जोटा कि मस्लोंकर थियोरी जोटा कि थिला ताको हायरार्की थियोरी कह जाउथला काहे कि ना नीड्स गुडा को ह्यूमन नीड्स आर अनलिमिटेड एज वी नो दैट no such individual is there whose all the needs can be fulfilled. So we are going to tell that human needs are unlimited, but the thing is that always the needs are also arranged in a certain order. Okay, so needs are from the lower level to up to the higher level, and it is mentioned that physiological needs are the lowest needs, lower level needs. It means if an individual cannot move without satisfying the lower level needs to up to the higher level needs, it means if someone's physiological needs are not fulfilled, then one cannot move for the higher needs like the self actualization. So the needs are arranged in a hierarchical order as physiological needs, security needs, social needs, esteem needs, and last stage is the self actualization. Okay, so according to Maslow, if the lower level needs are fulfilled, then only one individual can move from to the another layer. It means to the security needs. When we are talking regarding the physiological needs, can you tell to me which needs can be called as the physiological needs? को नीड गुडा को हमें फिजियोलॉजिकल नीड्स कहबा ये कहबो जेमते हमें कहबा कि नीड ऑफ फूड खाद्य is a physiological need or not?
yes
Yes. So some certain biological needs are called as the physiological needs. It means जे हमर जदी ए छोटो नीड्स जणको मानकर भोको होची जणे भोकिला अछि आमे ताकू सेतेबे जदी बहुत किछि ज्ञान दबा किछि पाठ पढेबा सेगुडी को तार केबे भी काम रे आसीबो नाही काहे कि ना तार लोअर लेवल नीड्स होची जोटा कि फूड क्लॉथ शेल्टर एंड वी कैन से द आमे एठी भी कहि परिबा जेंति कि हमर love, affection, all these are called as the certain biological needs. Okay, जदि ए नीड गुडा का हमर फुलफिल हेइनी ताहाले हमकु आमे जोटा कि वर्तमान नॉलेज कथा कहूचे किबा आमे प्रेस्टीज कथा कहूचे एगुडी को जेतेबेले बायोलॉजिकल नीड्स गुडा को फुलफिल हेइनी से नीड्स रो आवश्यकता से नीड्स गुडा को फुलफिल करबा संभव हेइ न थाए. So always our needs are moving from lower level to up to the higher level, and at the base level the needs are called as the physiological needs. Okay, if physiological needs are fulfilled, then one can move to the security needs. Security needs means, as we know, insecure jane feel करुथिबो सेतेबेले आमे ताकू जदी पाठ पढेबा can with the individual can learn. सपोज आमे बे जानि जे हमर बे एटे आमे जोठी बसि जे हमर सेटे इनसिक्योर अछि एठी गुटे बोमा पढिबार अछि तमु सेटे क्लास होउछि तमे पाठ पढुछो, कैन यू फील फ्री एंड कैन यू कैन लर्न एंड it can be useful for you? No, never. Okay, so you must feel secure. Security needs. And security needs also love and affection, the recognition, acceptance, all these things also will come under that security needs. Okay, then we will come to the social needs, social recognition. ଆମର ସବୁ needs fulfill ହେଲା ପରେ ବି ଆମକୁ ଅନ୍ୟମାନଙ୍କ ଦ୍ୱାରା acceptance ଦରକାର, ଆମର ଅନ୍ୟମାନଙ୍କ recognition ଦରକାର, ଆମକୁ society ରେ ଗୋଟେ position ଦରକାର, society ରେ ଗୋଟେ space ଦରକାର, ସେଇ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡାକ ମଧ୍ୟ ଆମର fulfill ହବା ଦରକାର। ସେ need ଗୁଡାକ କେତେବେଳେ fulfill ହୁଏ? ଯେତେବେଳେ ଏଇ ଦିଟା need fulfill ହେଇଯାଏ, physiological needs ଆଉ security needs fulfill ହେଲା ପରେ ଆମ individual can move to the social needs. Then esteem needs means self respect, your recognition, these all will come under the esteem needs. Then last is called as the self actualization. Self actualization means something that related to the spiritualism, as we can say that it is the highest need. It means if all these needs are fulfilled, then only one individual can reach to the stage of the self actualization. Okay, मोक्ष प्राप्त हवा किंबा बड़ बड़ बहुत बड़ जिनसटाको जोड़ाको आम करवा कथा कहूचे सेटाको आम कहू सेल्फ एक्चुअलाइजेशन। किंतु ता पई गोटे इंडिविजुअल रो ए सब नीड्स गुडाको फुलफिल हेतिबा निहाती दरकार अकॉर्डिंग टू मस्लो। ओके, मस्लो को थ्योरी कहूची जे जदी लोअर लेवल नीड्स गुडाको फुलफिल हेइनी देन गोटे वन इंडिविजुअल हाईएस्ट लेवल को केबे जाई परिबो नाही। देन तो सेठी पई आमे जेतले मोटिवेट करवा कथा चिंता करूचे, आमे गोटे इंडिविजुअल को मोटिवेट करवा कथा चिंता करूचे, आमे सब बेले चिंता करवा दरकार तार ए लोअर लेवल नीड्स गुडाको फुलफिल हेइची कि नाही। देन वी कैन move according to that and we must motivate them. So these are the just theme of the Maslow's theory of motivation. Okay, like तमे स्किनर का नाम ही सुनिथिबो, स्किनर सुनिछो, डीएफ स्किनर? अरे साइकोलॉजी पेपर पढ़िछो +3 लेवल रे?
आगे मैम।
अच्छा, सेतिरे स्किनर का नाम निहाती सुनिथिबो?
आगे।
अच्छा, स्किनर को थ्योरी सुनिछो? कोन से थ्योरी करथिले, केमिति एक्सपेरिमेंट करथिले, काहाकु नै कि एक्सपेरिमेंट करथिले, जानिछो किछि?
मैम perhaps
नहीं जानी ना?
yes ma'am।
कहलो
मैम
काहाकु नै कि
रैट
से
ऊपर,
करथिले ताकर एक्सपेरिमेंट?
मैम रैट ऊपर बोध
यस,
करथिले।
वेरी गुड। हां, स्किनर रैट ऊपर करथिले। कोन करथिले, कोन एक्सपेरिमेंट करथिले त रैट को नै कि?
मैम से गोटे एमती जनता भितर रखिथिले, किछि फूड्स रखिथिले आ गोटे लिवर रखिथिले। तारे कोन एक्जेक्टली मने पड़नी, बट बिहेवियर ऑब्जर्व करिया पे सेटा करथिले। माने हमें जदि ताकू रिवार्ड दउची देन से अगेन पुणी से एक्टिविटी टा करूची, माने एक्टिविटी रे गोटे प्रोग्रेस चलीची।
अच्छा अच्छा, आउ के कहबो? तो हमर जेतरे रीइंफोर्समेंट थ्योरी हमें जो कहूचे, रीइंफोर्समेंट थ्योरी डेवलप्ड बाय द बीएफ स्किनर। तो माने मते की कहयो व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन रीइंफोर्समेंट एंड फीडबैक? फीडबैक कोन और रीइंफोर्समेंट कोन ना दिटे जाको एका जिंस? कहि परिबो कि?
मैम फीडबैक जनरली both are provided at the end of any teaching, learning or any activity. Feedback may be negative or positive, or
yes,
it is it may be written or verbal in this form.
अच्छा हां को
And the reinforcement exactly
एक्चुअली गोटे जिंस डिफरेंस होची एठी Reinforcement we mostly provide during the process. Okay, when the work is going on, what as a trainer or as a motivator or as a teacher, what you are going to provide to bring the change in behavior or to bring the change in the way of doing, then it is called as reinforcement. We are going to reinforce them. Okay, so it is called as reinforcement, which is during the process. But feedback is always given at the end of the process. When examination is over, and after that, after seeing the, after evaluating, we are going to provide certain feedback. As you already told, feedback may be also the positive or the negative. Okay, or but mostly we avoid to provide the negative feedback. Okay, same thing we can provide like that also. Reinforcement also can be positive and negative, but we never give stress on the use of negative reinforcement. We always used to give more importance on the positive reinforcement. But the both the work is to motivate, whether it is reinforcement or it is feedback. It must motivate the individual, and it must bring certain change in a positive direction in the way of the doing. Whatever an individual is going to do, if we are using the reinforcement or feedback, after that there must be certain improvement or certain change in the way of doing of the individual. So the thing differ is that feedback is always given at the end of the process, and reinforcement is always given during the process. Okay, so like this, already as you told, B.F. Skinner also has conducted an experiment by taking the rat, and he has made the experiment. तमरो मॉड्यूल रू पढ़िबो पूरा डिटेल एटा एक्सप्लेन करले हम तो टाइम पळेबो, तो मु खाली जस्ट ब्रीफली कहि दोची तांकर तो थीम टा जहा थिला, बीएफ स्किनर कर थ्योरी रो थीम टा जहा थिला जे रिवार्ड आउ इंसेंटिव plays very important role to motivate. से देखुथिले जदि हमें रिवार्ड दउचे, से जेतेले मुसार से जो रैट को नेकी जो एक्सपेरिमेंट करूथिले, जेतेले से किछि रिवार्ड दउथिले, then that same activity is going to be done in a well manner by the same individual. माने by the rat. से तो individual को नेकी करनथिले, rat को नेकी करथिले, एवं rat को नेकी जोटा करिथिले सेटा को से माने जनरलाइज करिथिले जे एटा हमें ह्यूमन बीइंग को पई हमर एजुकेशन फील्ड रे भी हमें यूज करि परिबा. But he has done the experiment by taking the rat. So that's why it is also criticized by all. जेमती जे rat को नेकी जहा experiment करा जायछि, how we can generalize for the individuals in the field of education. Okay, but the main theme of the theory is that reward and incentive motivate students. तांकर जोटा gist टा जहा थिला जे हम जदि reward दबा और incentive दबा, ताहाले students माने भी हमर education field रे motivate हेबे. ओके, जोटा कि अलगा ये रे सेटा को क्रिटिसाइज करा हितला जे रिवार्ड एंड इंसेंटिव will make a conditioning also for the individuals. आमी जदि सबु बेले दबा, then it will become a condition for the students. Okay, so this is the just theme of the B.F. Skinner regarding the experiment, and he also has given stress on motivation. Motivation plays a very important role, and it must be used in the field of education in terms of reward and incentive. ହେଲା सेमती तमरो आउ गोटे थ्योरी भी एथिरे मेंशन हेची, which is called as the goal setting theory by Edwin Locke. ए सब थ्योरी गुडा का तमे टिके मॉड्यूल रु पढिबो डिटेल, देन आउ टिके तमे बुझिवाटा तमरो इजी हबो. जदि भी पढिला परे किछि डाउट अछि, हमर नेक्स्ट क्लास रे हमें से विषय भी डिस्कशन करि परिबा, पचारिबो हैला. जदि किंतु सब तो डिटेल हमें डिस्कशन करि परिबानी, किंतु तमे निजे पढो, पढिला परे जदि तमरो किछि डाउट होचे हमें ताले मते पचारि परिबो, हमें डिस्कशन करिबा हैला. तो goal setting theory जोटा अच्छी, that is called as the Edwin Locke goal setting theory, and in this theory he has given importance that this theory states that when the goal are set with clarity and at a higher standard, students are motivated to perform in maximum effort. हैला, तो एंकर कहबा कथा होची जे first of all which will motivate, that is the goal. So before going to do the work, the students must be aware regarding their goal. After doing the work, what we have to achieve, if the students are aware about it, then it is going to motivate them well. So goal must be, before doing the work also, goal must be identified, and every student must aware regarding the goal, then only it can be able to help them. Okay, बुझी परलो हम कहली सपोज टेक एग्जांपल you have joined in a particular course, okay, there if the goal is clear for the student जे ए कोर्स टा कला पर मते ए चाकरीटा पाइबी मु ए चाकरी पई एलिजिबल हेपी, then the goal is here fine, it means it is already determined, then the students will be motivated to do the course. Okay, so everything whatever the things we are going to do, if the goal is identified in a proper manner, then the individual will be more motivated according to kaha kiye question the theory ta Edwin Locke. According to Edwin Locke, goal must be identified before going to do the work, and this is the gist of his theory. बुझी परलो?
Yes, ma'am.
Goal setting theory से सेइथिरे से emphasis करिसंती यदि goal finalize, then we can easily motivate to the students. Okay, so before going to motivate, we must make our students aware about the goal. कौन ए कामटा कला परे कौन मिलिबो कौन अचीव करिया को हबो, यदि से विषय जे लोक माने अवेयर अछंती, then the motivation process is easy and we can easily motivate to the individuals. Okay, ठीक अछि? अरे बुझी परलो समझते?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
अच्छा तापरे आ विषय आउ किछि डाउट अछि कि?
No, ma'am.
अच्छा ताले ए गोल सेटिंग थ्योरी ये थ्योरी दिटा जाको बुझी परलो?
Yes, ma'am.
अच्छा एबे स्क्रीन देखा जाउची ना?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
अच्छा नेक्स्ट आमे जिबा सेल्फ डिटरमिनेशन थ्योरी. ए थ्योरीटा डेवलप हिची बाय डेसी एंड आरी रैन. ओके, ए थ्योरी रे से कहिसंती कॉम्पिटेंसी, relatedness and autonomy plays the very important role in motivating. Okay, टिके गोटे सेकंड टिके डिस्टर्ब होची, टिके रो अर्जेंट कॉल रे मु करिकि मु आते तुमको स्क्रीन शेयर करूची. ओके
Okay, ma'am.
ओके एबे मते खाली कंफर्म करो स्क्रीन देखा जाउची कि नहीं. देखा गला?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, self determination theory. Self determination theory ro focus hoji je in this theory the importance is given that from the name itself you can understand why it is called as the self determination theory, because the determination taken by the individual is the main important thing which motivate the individual according to Deshi and Ryan. से कहितले से फोकस करथिले जे no other body can motivate the individual if the individual is not ready to motivate. Na se kahiba mane the theme, the gist of this theory is that if an individual is not internally motivated, no other things like reward, incentive all these things cannot play a very important role to motivate. Okay, first of all thing is that what is going to motivate? First thing is that uh, real, competency and autonomy. One thing is that first thing is that autonomy. Autonomy means freedom. जो जेकोसी जिनस जेकोसी काम कला बेले the degree of freedom given to an individual plays a very important role to motivate. Okay, interference or in we can say the controlled or the restricted situation, the individual will never will be motivated to do the work. So if we want to motivate, we must has to give highest degree of freedom or the autonomy to the individuals to do the work. Then only an individual can be motivated. And another is that competency. Competence, if in the certain area a individual is not having the competence, because we know to do every work there is need of certain competency. If suppose teaching is a profession, for that there is need of certain competence. If an individual is not having those competency, to what extent we want to motivate, we can never motivate. Okay, so competency is the first thing. Suppose take example, आमे जदि कहिबा गोटे एरोप्लेन चलेबा पई गोटे पायलट हबा पई सर्टेन कॉम्पिटेंस दरकार अछि, किंतु आमे जो केवल जो गोटे लोक को मोटिवेट कर देले जने पायलट हबा पई इंटरेस्टेड हे जिवो ताहा नुह, तार सेइथिरे ओन इंटरेस्ट थिबा सहित तार से कॉम्पिटेंसी गुडे को से एक्वायर करि परिबा दरकार. सेमति
yes ma'am,
प्रत्येक
skill
काम,
ability.
yes, प्रत्येक काम पई किछि गुडे कॉम्पिटेंसी रो आवश्यकता अछि. आ जदि से कॉम्पिटेंसी गुडा को गोटे इंडिविजुअल पाकरे नाही, आमे ताको केते मोटिवेट कले बे सेटे मोटिवेशन आसीबो नाही. तो मेन थिंग इंपोर्टेंट role play that. One thing is that competency, and another is that relatedness. It means relatedness means that individual must be able to make a relation. To what extent I am able to do it, make a correlation between the two things, then only individual will be interested. And another is the autonomy. Autonomy means freedom to in any field. If an individual is not getting the freedom, the individual will not be interested. So a theory re self determination theory re Deci and Ryan ko importance thila je individual only himself or herself will be motivated. That's why he has named it as the self determination theory. And three things are emphasized by him. One is competency, and another is relatedness, and third thing is that autonomy. Three things are the things is going to internally motivate an individual for a particular work. Okay, so this is the gist of his theory. And next theory we will go move. Strategy, no, not the theory. This is the strategy for enhancing motivation. But at the strategy we can adapt in the teaching learning process to motivate the individual. Okay, here whatever the strategy we are going to discuss here from the point of view of the teaching learning process in the teaching field. What are the strategy as a teacher you can adapt for enhancing the motivation? Now, these are the only three theories are also only there in your module, I think so. And other theories are also, many more theories are there in the motivation. If beyond that, if you will read the other theories of motivation, you will get more idea. Like that, you know already Pavlov's theory, and we can you must know about the Kohlberg's theory. Different theories are there in the motivation. ए सब theory को बोधे ग्रेजुएशन लेवल रे तमे पढ़ी थिबो जे पावलोव केमती डॉग को नै की करथिले, स्किनर रैट को नै की करथिले, हमरो आउ हमें ऑलरेडी मस्लों को थ्योरी डिस्कशन करले. एमती बहुत गुडा थ्योरी अछि जो थ्योरी गुडा करे से माने मोटिवेशन को बहुत इंपोर्टेंस दे छथि. मोटिवेशन इन द टीचिंग लर्निंग प्रोसेस plays a very important role. How as a teacher we must aware about the motivation. Okay, so now we will discuss regarding the strategies for enhancing motivation. Screen ta dekha jauchi?
No, ma'am.
No ma'am.
देखा जाओनी strategies for enhancing motivation ये slide टा देखा जाओनी?
No ma'am.
Ma'am, black दिख
Okay, once waiting. ଏବେ ଦେଖାଗଲା?
आगे मैम.
Yes ma'am.
हाँ, ठीक ଅଛି. ए स्लाइड देखो स्ट्रेटजीज फॉर एनहांसिंग मोटिवेशन को स्ट्रेटजी गुडा को हमर मोटिवेशन को एनहांस करे आमे को स्ट्रेटजी अडॉप्ट करले आमे मोटिवेशन को एनहांस करि परिबा तो आमे एठे मु एठे मेंशन करिछि से 10 पॉइंट्स फॉर यू जेमति कि मु तोळा आडू पढुछि तो प्रथम को छु सेल्फ इवैल्यूएशन मोटिवेट्स ए इंडिविजुअल आर यू एग्री विथ मी
यस मैम
तमे मो कथारे तम माने राजी की जे आमे समस्त को सेल्फ इवैल्यूएशन करबा दरकार टू मोटिवेट आवरसेल्फ
यस मैम
the feedback by others the feedback by others the reward by others less motivate us till we are not evaluating ourselves okay so we must teach our students and we must teach our children that how they will make their own evaluation themselves that is also called as the self introspection we must think that to what extent I'm going to do a thing properly and what is not proper with me okay if we will self evaluate ourselves then it is a criteria it automatically will motivate one individual to do a work okay so we as a teacher we must teach our children to evaluate themselves not by the teacher evaluation only will not will be done by the teacher a student has to evaluate himself or herself then only the child will be motivate in the teaching learning process okay so this is a strategy if we want to motivate we motivate our children to do their self evaluation or to make the self introspection okay the next we will come offer open ended activities to develop creativity ଯେମିତି କି ଅଲରେଡି ଆମେ ଜାଣିଛେ ଅଲରେଡି ଆମେ ଲାଷ୍ଟ ଥିଓରିରେ ବି ଆମେ ଡିସ୍କସନ କଲେ ସେଲ୍ଫ ଡିଟରମିନେସନ ଥିଓରିରେ ଯେ ଅଟୋନୋମି और फ्रीडम plays a very important role to motivate जो any field whatever may be if we will provide the freeness to the children to do the work the children will be more motivated to do that work if the interference of the elders or interference of the teachers will be more it will create less interest among them to do the work so nowadays in the modern teaching learning process we are giving focus to the role of the teacher as a facilitator to role of the teacher as a facilitator not as a teacher understand only teacher will
yes
be
ma'am
there to provide the benefit to our children when they are going to do the work okay so we must give focus on that yes okay okay कौन है मत मो पीपीटी देखा गलानी ठीक अच्छे एबे देखा जाउची ना तुमको
नो मैम ब्लैक आସୁଛି
ब्लैक आछी
आज्ञा
नेटवर्क इश्यू रोच बोधे किछि देखा जाउनी काहा को भी देखा जाउनी आउ किए कहलो
नो मैम
No, ma'am. किसी देखो जाए
wait network issue is there एबे कहलो देखा जाउची कि नहीं एबे देखा गेला ଭଏସ ଶୁଣା ଯାଉଛି?
yes ma'am,
ଦେଖାଗଲା?
yes ma'am.
କଣଟା ଦେଖା ଯାଉଛି କହିଲ କୋ ସ୍ଲାଇଡ ଟା?
Ma'am, strategies for enhancing motivation and the concept, there are some points under the
Yes, yes.
topic
Okay,
and the
okay.
concept of stress management.
Okay, okay. Thank you, thank you. Okay. So we are discussing this. ହଁ କିଏ କଣ କହୁଛ କି? Okay, ठीक ଅଛି. So we are discussing the strategy for enhancing motivation. And next point is that use ambiguity occasionally. ଏଥିରୁ କଣ ବୁଝୁଛ? Sometimes as a teacher, we need to create some ambiguity. Then only the students will be interested to do the work. So strategy to motivate is to use ambiguity occasionally. Occasionally as a teacher, you have to create the ambiguity. ବୁଝି ପାରୁଛ ambiguity create କରିବା ମାନେ କଣ? ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ କିଛି thought provoking question ପଚାରିବା, ଏମିତି କଲେ କେମିତି ହବ? ତ to explore them, ମାନେ ପିଲାମାନଙ୍କୁ explore କରିବା ପାଇଁ, ସେମାନଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ଥିବା idea କୁ explore କରିବା ପାଇଁ, sometimes as a teacher we have to create the ambiguity, which is also a strategy to motivate. Okay. And another is help students on internal focus of control. Help students an internal focus of control. It means uh, uh, we must give focus how a child must be internally motivated, not only always taking the use of the reward, prize daba, reward daba, incentive daba. It a conditioning they may be motivated only for those things, but as a teacher we must feel we give focus on internal motivation to create the interest really from within themselves. They will be motivated towards the work. So no doubt we have to use the rewards, incentive, etc. But we must give focus on the internal motivation. Okay. Another is use rewards and punishment, as already I told to you, and teach them to make their tasks more manageable. ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ ନିଜେ କହିବେ, ସେମାନଙ୍କ କାମକୁ ସେମାନେ ନିଜେ କେମିତି ମ୍ୟାନେଜ କରିପାରିବେ, less interference by the teacher. ଏଇ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡାକରେ ଆମେ ଫୋକସ ଦବା. ଆଉ ନେକ୍ସଟ ବହୁତ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ ଥିଙ୍ଗ ହଉଛି ଯେ ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ ଗୋଟେ ସିକ୍ୟୁର ଏନଭାୟରନମେଣ୍ଟ ଦବା. ଯେତେବେଳେ ପିଲାମାନେ ଯେକୌଣସି କାମ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଦେ ମଷ୍ଟ ଫିଲ୍ ସିକ୍ୟୁର. ଯଦି ବି କିଛି ଖରାପ ହେଲେ ଯେ ସେମାନଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ପନିଶମେଣ୍ଟ ଅଛି, କି ସେମାନଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ କିଛି ନେକ୍ସଟ କିଛି ସର୍କମଷ୍ଟାନ୍ସ କ୍ରିଏଟ ହେବ, ସେ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷର ଭୟ ଯେମିତି ପିଲାଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ନଥିବ. ତ ପ୍ରୋଭାଇଡ ଏ ସିକ୍ୟୁର ଏନଭାୟରନମେଣ୍ଟ, ଦେନ୍ ଓନ୍ଲି ଚାଇଲ୍ଡ ୱିଲ୍ ବି ସେଲ୍ଫ ମୋଟିଭେଟ ଟୁ ଡୁ ଏ ୱର୍କ. ସୋ ଦିଜ୍ ଆର୍ ଦ ସେର୍ଟେନ୍ ତାଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ଓନ୍ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେନ୍ଥ କୁ ବିଲ୍ଡ କରିବା, ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ ବିଭିନ୍ନ ପ୍ରକାର ଚଏସ୍ ଦବା କାମ କରିବା ପାଇଁ, ଏଇଟା ନହେଲେ ସେଇଟା କରିପାରିବ, ସେଇଟା ନହେଲେ ସେଇଟା କରିପାରିବ, ଯେମିତି କି ଇଟ୍ ୱିଲ୍ ନଟ୍ କ୍ରିଏଟ୍ ଏ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସ୍ among them to do a particular work. So these are the certain strategy if we will adopt as a teacher, it will motivate to our children or towards the teaching learning process. So these are the certain, ଆଉ ଟିକେ ତମେ ଭଲରେ ମଡ୍ୟୁଲ ରେ ବି ପଢିବ, ଆଉ ଟିକେ ଭଲରେ ବି ଆଉ ଟିକେ କ୍ଲାରିଟି ଆସିବ ତମେ ପଢି ସାରିଲା ପରେ. So next we will move to concept of stress management. Stress ପ୍ରଥମେ ତ ସମସ୍ତେ ଜାଣିଛେ ଆମେ, what is stress? କିଏ ମତେ କହିବ what is stress? Stress ମାନେ କଣ? ନା ଜାଣିନ କାହାର stress ନାହିଁ?
Yes ma'am.
ତାହେଲେ କହିପାରିବ stress କୁହ, ମାନେ ତମେ ନିଜେ ତମ own language ରେ କୁହ stress ମାନେ ତମେ କଣ ବୁଝୁଛ? What is stress?
Ma'am, generally stress,
ଡେଫିନେସନ କହିବା ଦରକାର ନାହିଁ, own language ରେ କୁହ what is stress.
ma'am, when our mind becomes upset regarding some worries, or whenever we try to do something or to solve something, when we fail to do that, or in
Yes.
that
ଖାଲି ଯେ
circumstances,
failed ହେଲେ ନୁହଁ, ଖାଲି failed ନୁହଁ, ଆମେ କହିବା stress is a psychological aspect. Are you agree with me? এটা ଗୋଟେ
yes ma'am,
psychological thing. Yes, এটা ଗୋଟେ ହଉଛି
yes ma'am,
psychological thing. Stress is a psychological aspect. So when we feel stress, when we give much more focus on a particular thing beyond our limit. Are you agree with me? ना राजी नुह ए कथारे मोर आमको स्ट्रेस सेते बेले आसे जेते बेले आमे बहुत गोटे जिंस को बहुत फोकस करूचे किछि गोटे भलो करिया पई चाहूचे किंतु आमे सेटा को आम बियॉन्ड रे लिमिट बोली भाबुचे एटा मु करि परिबी कि नाही बोली आम भीतर गोटे फियर इज द कॉज ऑफ स्ट्रेस. आर यू एग्री विथ मी? नहीं जेते बेले मैं हाईली फोकस्ड रहिबा it actually stress is a psychological aspects and it is there when we give much more focus on a particular thing within a limit. Okay, so it is going to create a stress. So stress we cannot tell that it is a negative emotion. Stress is good. Stress is also sometimes stress is good for an individual. Okay, but it must be the low stress, not the high stress. Here it is I have mentioned you that लो स्ट्रेस जदि रहिबो ताले लो परफॉर्मेंस रहिबो किंतु हाई स्ट्रेस रहिले जे हाई परफॉर्मेंस हबो ता नु लो स्ट्रेस रहिले जे ठीक अछि मैं कामटा तो करि परिबी आ जदि ओवर कॉन्फिडेंस इज आल्सो इज गोइंग टू क्रिएट ए is not going to help you to achieve a thing. But sometimes low stress is required. If low stress is there, then you will manage the things and you will get. Okay. But high stress जेतेबेले भी होबो हमर low performance रहिबो. Low stress रहिले भी low performance रहिबो. So stress we must know to what extent we can take the stress so that we can manage our work. So stress is a psychological thing. And without stress also we cannot tell that no individual is there without stress. Every individual have certain stress when certain work is going to be done by the individual. So stress is good, but it to some extent. So when it is very low, it is giving the low performance, and when it is very high also, it is going to give low performance. So the thing is that we as an individual must know how to make the management of that psychological aspects. बुझी पारलो? अरे बुझी पारलो कि समस्ते कौन कहिली मु?
Yes, ma'am.
तो स्ट्रेस जिनसटा होची एटा गोटे साइकोलॉजिकल थिंग. जेतेबेले आमे किछि गोटे काम करू सेतेबेले हमर स्ट्रेस निहाती रहे किंतु स्ट्रेस ता जदि बहुत भी कम हुए ताले एटा भलो नुह किबा बहुत हाई हेले भी भलो नुह. तो आमे एज ए इंडिविजुअल वी मस्ट नो ऑलवेज how to manage the stress, and that is called as the stress management. And the person is a achiever when a individual is able to manage the stress. जे स्ट्रेस मैनेजमेंट जेते अधिका करि पारे तार अचीवमेंट सेते अधिका हेइ थाए. जेमते हमें कहबा परीक्षा बेले परीक्षा जदि एग्जाम अछि डेफिनेटली स्ट्रेस इज रिक्वायर्ड. स्ट्रेस जदि न रहइबो यू विल नॉट नेवर मोटिवेट टू रीड. तमे पाठ पढिया पे इंटरेस्टेड हबो नाही. किंतु जते एते हाई स्ट्रेस हला ताहाले भी पढि परिबो नाही. Then it's also not good. So you must know that to what extent you are able to manage your stress. That is going to give you certain achievement. So that is called as the concept of stress management. है ना? तो आमे केमिति स्ट्रेस आमे केमिति recognize करिवा स्ट्रेस अछि कि नाही, how we can recognize. Okay, how we will recognize? तमे निजे को तमर स्ट्रेस होछ बोल तमे केमिति जानुचो कोन हेले जानुचो जे तमर स्ट्रेस अछि बोली. कहि परिबो तम मानकर निजर स्ट्रेस अछि बोली तमे केमिति जानि परछो केतल जानि परछो जे नै मोर आज स्ट्रेस अछि. तापे केचे सिम्पटम अछि. से सिम्पटम गुडा कहला कोन कोन ना मेंटल सोशल फिजिकल माने स्ट्रेस जेते बेले था एटा एदर मेंटली एक्सप्रेस हुए फिजिकली एक्सप्रेस हुए किंबा साइकोलॉजिकली एक्सप्रेस हुए. ओके, मेंटल सोशल फिजिकल मैनिफेस्टेशन तारे हेइ थाए. कोन जेते बेले फिजिकल जेते बेले हुए से फिजिकल रे केते बेले ब्रीथिंग प्रॉब्लम आसीबो हैला फील तापर फेंट हेइ जिवा अनएक्सपेक्टेड झाळ बाहरिबा देहरु हैला same କଥା को repeatedly କହିବା. So these are the certain symptom of stress physically. So ଯେତେବେଳେ stress is a thing, it will be must express. ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମର stress ଥାଏ ଏଟା ଆମର ନିହାତି express ହେଇଥାଏ, either physically हो किंबा ଆମର socially हो किंबा psychologically हो किंबा behavior रे हो किंबा ଆମର emotion रे हो, ଯେଉଁଥିରେ ବି ଆମର stress ଟା ଆମର express ହେଇଥାଏ. ତ stress ଅଛି ବୋଲି କେମିତି ଜାଣିବା, ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମର physical disturbance ହବ, କଣ କହିଲେ ନା କିଛି ହଠାତ୍ stress, ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମକୁ ହଠାତ୍ କିଛି ଜିନିଷ ଆମେ stress ହେଇଯାଉ ସେତେବେଳେ ଆମର breathing, ଆମର high breathing ହେଇଯାଏ, କିମ୍ବା କେତେ ଜଣ ଲୋକ faint ହେଇଯାଆନ୍ତି, କିମ୍ବା unexpected ଝାଳ ବାହାରେ ଦେହରୁ, କିମ୍ବା repeatedly ଗୋଟେ particular ଜିନିଷକୁ focus କରିକି ସେଇ କଥା କହିବା. ତ ଏଗୁଡାକ ହଉଛି ଗୋଟେ ମାନେ symptom of physical disturbance, ସେଟା ହଉଛି ଗୋଟେ symptom of physical disturbance ଯୋଉଟା କି stress ଅଛି ବୋଲି ଜଣା ଯାଇଥାଏ. ଓକେ, ସେମିତି cognitive ରେ କେମିତି ଜାଣିବା cognitive disturbance ହବ, ଯଦି ବି stress ଅଛି ବି cognitive disturbance ବି ହବ. କଣ cognitive disturbance? stress ରେ ରହିଲେ କିଛି ଜିନିଷ ମନେ ପଡିବନି, ଭୁଲି ଯିବା, ହେଲା, confuse ହେଇଯିବା, କିମ୍ବା good absent mind ରହିବା. So these all are the symptom of stress at the cognitive level. ସେମିତି behavioral ରେ କଣ, behavioral ର behavior ରେ କଣ change ହବ ନା unexpected ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡାକ କରିବା, ଗୋଟେ କାମ ଭାବୁଥିବ ଗୋଟେ କାମ କରୁଥିବ, ସେମିତି ଭୋକ ନ ଲାଗିବା, ନିଦ ନ ଲାଗିବା, stress ରେ ରହିଲେ ଯଦି ଗୋଟେ କଥା ମାଇଣ୍ଡ ରେ ଚାଲିଥାଏ ସେତେବେଳେ ତାହେଲେ ଅଲଗା କାମ କଣ କରୁଛ ସେଇଥିରେ ଫୋକସ ନ ରହିବା. So these are all the behavioral disturbance when we are there in the stress. ସେମିତି emotional disturbance ଅଛି, କଣ ନା emotional panic ହେଇଯିବା, ସାଙ୍ଗେ ସାଙ୍ଗେ ରାଗି ଯିବା କିମ୍ବା କାନ୍ଦିବା, anxiety level ବଢିଯିବା, ଏଗୁଡାକ ହଉଛି ଆମର emotional level ରେ stress ଅଛି ବୋଲି symptom. ବୁଝିପାରିଲ ସମସ୍ତେ? ତ ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ଲୋକକୁ ଦେଖିକି ଆମେ କେମିତି ଜାଣିପାରିବା ଯେ to what extent the individual is stressed? ଜାଣିପାରୁଛ କେତେବେଳେ ତମେ ମାନେ ଏଜେ ଆମେ ତ ଇଣ୍ଡିଭିଜୁଆଲ ବି ଆମେ ଜାଣିପାରୁଛେ କେତେବେଳେ ଆମର ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସ୍ ହଉଛି, ତମେ ନିଜେ ଜାଣିପାରୁଛ ତମର କେତେବେଳେ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସ୍ ହଉଛି. So these all are the symptom, either physical disturbance or cognitive disturbance or behavioral disturbance or emotional disturbance. ତ ଯେମିତି ଆମେ କହିଲେ stress is always there, at every field stress is there and it is there with every individual, but the thing is that stress is also, at every time we cannot tell that stress is not good. No, to some extent stress is also required, because it according to psychologists stress also motivate a individual. ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମର stress ରହେ that is also a internal motivation, ଆମକୁ ସେ ଜିନିଷଟା ବି motivate କରେ, but it must not be high level stress. Okay, and it also must not be very low. We must know how to manage it. କେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ manage କରିବା, when we are able to identify it. ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ତାକୁ identify କରିବା, then we will learn how to manage it. So we as an individual, not only as a teacher, we every individual must have certain knowledge regarding stress, how to identify and how to manage it. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then we will move to techniques for stress management. ଆମେ ତ ଜାଣିଲା ଆମର ଏମିତି stress ଏଇଗୁଡା ହଉଛି symptom, but we must learn that how we will manage it. କେତେଟା ଟେକ୍ନିକ୍ ଅଛି, ଆମେ ସେ ଟେକ୍ନିକ୍ ଗୁଡାକ ଜାଣିବା ଦରକାର, ଆମେ ଆମର ନିଜର stress କୁ ବି ଆମେ କେମିତି manage କରିବା, ଏଜ ଏ ଟିଚର ଆମେ ପିଲାମାନଙ୍କୁ କେମିତି ହେଲ୍ପ କରିବା ତାଙ୍କର stress manage କରିବା ପାଇଁ. ତ ସେଇଟା ହଉଛି ପ୍ରଥମ କଥା ହଉଛି set realistic goal for yourself. ଯେମିତି ଆମେ already discussion କରୁଥିଲେ, ଯଦି ଆମେ unrealistic goal ରଖିବା then definitely it will create the high stress. ଯେମିତି ଆମର parents ମାନେ decide କରନ୍ତି ମୋ ଛୁଆ ଏୟା ହବା ଦରକାର, but we never evaluate our child, what is the level of my child, whether those competencies are there with my child or not, but we are going to impose something within the child that you have to achieve it. So it is going to create the stress for the child. So before going to set the goal, you must, for yourself or for others, we must aware that whether the goal is realistic or not. If the goal is not realistic, it will create the high level stress. So stress management କରିବାର ପ୍ରଥମ technique ହଉଛି ଯେ first of all evaluate whether the for which you are getting stress, whether that goal is realistic or not. ବୁଝିପାରିଲ ସମସ୍ତେ ପଏଣ୍ଟଟା କଣ?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. ସେମିତି do not overwhelm yourself. ଓଭର ଏକ୍ସପେକ୍ଟେସନ କରିବା, ଓଭର ମାନେ ବିୟଣ୍ଡ ଲେଭେଲ ରେ ଯାଇକି କାମ କରିଦେବା, ଭାବିବା ବି ଇଟ୍ ଇଜ ଏ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସ୍। ଯେମିତି ଭାବିବ ମୁଁ ସବୁ କରିଦେବି, each and every field I will do excel. No, it's never possible. It will create the stress. You will unable to balance your work. It will create the over stress. So do not overwhelm yourself. Okay. ସେମିତି next point ଆମେ କହିବା, remove yourself from stressful situation. ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଜାଣୁଛେ ଯେ ସିଚୁଏସନ ଟା ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସଫୁଲ, then we must learn how to be come out of it. ଯୋଉ ସିଚୁଏସନ ଆମେ ଆଇଡେଣ୍ଟିଫାଇ କରୁଛେ this situation is going to create the stress, we must know how to remove ourselves from that particular situation. This is a technique. Then change the way you see the things. sometimes କଣ ହୁଏ, ଆମର own perception ହିଁ ଆମ ପାଇଁ stress ଆଣିଦିଏ, ଜିନିଷଟା ସେମିତି ନଥାଏ। But we know that we understand the world how we believe, our thoughts, our beliefs, on the basis of that we are going to lead our life. But we never think that the thing is, we always think that the thing is outside, but no, the thing is always there within us. ଆମେ ଯୋଉ ଜିନିଷଟାକୁ ଯେମିତି ପରସିଭ କରୁ, ଆମକୁ ସେଇ ଜିନିଷଟା ସେମିତି ଦେଖାଯାଏ। ସୋ ଯଦି ଆମେ ଦେଖୁଛେ ଯେ ଆମ ପାଇଁ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସ୍ ଅଧିକା ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସ୍ ହଉଛି, then we must introspect ourselves. We must think to bring the change within our own thought and in the own beliefs. Then only we can able to manage our stress. ଠିକ ଅଛି। ସେମିତି avoid extreme reactions. ଅଧିକା ରାଗି ଯିବା କିମ୍ବା ଅଧିକା ବି ସାଇଲେଣ୍ଟ ରହିବା, କିଛି ନ କହିବା, ଯୋଉଟାକ କି ଏକ୍ସଟ୍ରିମ ସିଚୁଏସନ ଗୁଡାକୁ ଆମେ ଆଭଏଡ କରିବା ଦରକାର। ଦେନ୍ ଓନ୍ଲି ଆମେ ଆଉଟ ଅଫ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସ୍, ମାନେ ଏଇଟା ଆମ ପାଇଁ ବି we must know that in that particular situation we can manage the stress. ସେମିତି ନିଦ ନ ହବା, it is a symptom of stress. So ଯଦି ନିଦ ନ ହଉଛି, then we know that what type of stress is there, for which purpose I am not able to sleep. So get enough sleep. ତା ପାଇଁ ଯଦି ଦେଖିବା ଆମକୁ enough sleep ଦରକାର। ତାପରେ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସ୍ କୁ ୟୁଜ କରିକି ହିଁ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସ୍ ରୁ ଆମେ ବାହାରକୁ ବାହାରି ପାରିବା। ଟ୍ରାଇ ଟୁ ୟୁଜ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସ୍, ଯୋଉଟା ଏଠି କହିଛି ଯେ ସମଟାଇମ୍ସ ରେ ଆମେ ଦେଖୁଛେ ଯେ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସ୍ ନିହାତି ଆସିବ, ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେସ୍ କୁ ଆମେ ଆଭଏଡ କରିପାରିବା ନାହିଁ। ତ ଏଟ ଦ୍ୟାଟ ଟାଇମ वी मस्ट नो हाउ टू यूज दैट पर्टिकुलर स्ट्रेस फॉर योर स्ट्रेस रिलीफ। ଆଉ ସବୁବେଳେ ପଜିଟିଭ ଥିଙ୍କିଂ ରଖିବା। एभॉइड एस्केप, जदि को जगह जानूचे जे हमको स्ट्रेस हम से ताको एवॉइड करबा न सिखि ताको केमती फेस करबा से जिंसटा सिखिबा। तो एमिति these are the certain techniques, but हमें जो कहिला बेले तो it's so easy to tell, but it's very difficult to manage the stress, and it is a, as we know, it is a psychological thing, it is always there within us. So first thing is that before going to manage the stress, you must identify your stress, and identification of the stress only the main problem. We are unable to identify why I am there in the stress. Sometimes the situation is that you are unable to identify why I am there in the stress. Okay, the problem is always there within us, but we used to find the solution in outside. So these are the certain things briefly we have discussed regarding the stress and stress management. आहुरी तमे डिटेल तम मॉड्यूल रे बहुत बढ़िया दिया हिची जिंस जदि तमे पढिबो, देन आहुरी तमको बहुत तमरा आ ऊपर अधिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग क्लियर हबो। ओके, so with this we have completed the block 2 and we will move now to block 3. आमे block 3 टा वर्तमान दीटा ब्लॉक हमर सरीला, आहुरी दीटा ब्लॉक अछि, तो आमे बे वर्तमान block 3 स्टार्ट करिवा। ओके, देखा जाउची स्क्रीन, देखा जाउची?
Yes, ma'am.
ब्लॉक 3 टा पे जो मु शेयर करूची देखा जाउची?
No, ma'am.
यस, देखा जाउनी?
No, ma'am.
आउ थरे देख कहिलो मते, नहीं?
Ma'am, block 2.
ब्लॉक 2 देखा जाउची? Okay, wait, again I have to share the screen. Once wait. ଏବେ ଦେଖାଗଲା?
Yes, ma'am.
अरे कन्फर्म करो टिके मते ब्लॉक 3 देखागला कि?
Yes, ma'am.
अच्छा ठीक अछि होची अच्छा ठीक अछि ब्लॉक 3 होची रिगार्डिंग लर्निंग लर्निंग एंड टाइप्स ऑफ लर्निंग एटा बहुत गुडाए लर्निंग रो थ्योरी ए सब आसीबो ए ब्लॉक रे तो हमें ए लर्निंग ऊपर प्रथमे डिस्कशन करिवा तमन तो साइकोलॉजी रे निहाती पढितबो लर्निंग विषय रे व्हाट इज लर्निंग व्हाट आर द डिफरेंट थियोरीज ऑफ लर्निंग आमे जस्ट टिके ब्रीफली डिस्कशन करिकि तापर आगु को जिबा ओके कहिले तमने व्हाट डू मीन बाय लर्निंग
Ma'am, learning is the permanent change in behavior.
yes very good yes learning is the only the modification of behavior is not learning okay because modification of behavior sometimes samaste kuhante je modification of behavior is learning no modification of behavior it can be positive or negative but negative things if there is a negative modification of behavior it never can be called as learning so learning is the positive modification of behavior then it can be called as learning tapre learning au kaku bi kahi pariba reflective action is not learning ame ketara jinsa confuse ho koटा learning manakar suppose तुमको तुम आगे गोटे निया अच्छी तुम से आंगुठा बाहर करदब निया जदि पाखक आसला निया पाखर आमर आंगुठा को बाहर करदबा इट इज नॉट ए लर्निंग इट इज ए रिफ्लेक्टिव एक्शन बिकॉज इट इज ए नेचुरल थिंग्स ओके जदि आम देखुचे गोटे जगह किसी डेंजर अच्छे ऑटोमेटिक से पाखर पळे आसीबा so these are not the learning so these occur on the as a reflective action of our body so reflective actions is never called as a learning सेमती instinct behavior is not learning instinct behavior माने बुझुचो which behaviors are called as instinct behavior it means by birth we learn certain behavior भोको लागिले खाइबा it's not a learning okay every individual have some biological behaviors and if these all are there within as a from the birth itself we have learned those behaviors तो सेटा को हमें भी लर्निंग बोली कहि परिबा नाही so instinct behaviors are not learning okay सेमती imprinting is not learning imprinting means follow करिबा जेमती आमे जेमती कहिबा जे कोनोसी जिंसटा को किछि माने जज न करिकि किछि जोठी कि हमर कॉग्निटिव रो इंटरफेरेंस किछि न आसे कि ब्लाइंडली फॉलो करिकि सिखुचे दैट इज नेवर कॉल्ड एज लर्निंग से जिंसटा को भी आमे
Ma'am,
इम्प्रिंटिंग कहू तो
ma'am, ma'am, can it
हां
be the
को
knowledge? Ma'am, can it be the knowledge we get from book reading or any source?
ନାଇଁ ବୁକ୍ ରିଡିଂ କଲେ ତ ଆମର କଗ୍ନିଟିଭ ର ଆମର ଚେଞ୍ଜ ଆସୁଛି ମାନେ ମୋ କହିବା କଥା ହଉଛି କଗ୍ନିଟିଭ ଲେଭେଲରେ କିଛି ଚେଞ୍ଜ ନ ହେଇକି ଆମେ ଯୋଉ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡାକ କେବଳ ଫୁଟ ପ୍ରିଣ୍ଟିଂ ରେ ଆମେ ଶିଖୁଛେ ମନେକର ସପୋଜ ଦେଖ ଗୋଟେ ଗୋଟେ କୁକୁଡା ଚାଲୁଛି ଗୋଟେ ବଡ କୁକୁଡାଟେ ମା କୁକୁଡା ଚାଲୁଛି ତା ପଛରେ ତା ଛୁଆ ଗୁଡାକ ଚାଲୁଛନ୍ତି ସେ ମା କୁକୁଡାଟା ଯେମିତି ଚାଲୁଛି ତମେ ଦେଖିଥିବ ଛୁଆ ମାନେ ସେମିତି ଚାଲନ୍ତି ଯଦି କୁକୁଡାଟା ଟିକେ ବଙ୍କେଇକି ଚାଲିଲା ଛୁଆ ଗୁଡାକ ବି ସେମିତି ବଙ୍କେଇକି ଚାଲନ୍ତି ସେଇଟାକୁ ଆମେ କହୁ ଇମ୍ପ୍ରିଣ୍ଟିଂ ସେମାନେ କିଛି ଶିଖି ନାହାନ୍ତି just they are going to follow mother ସେମାନେ କେବଳ ମା କୁ ଫଲୋ କରି କରି ଯାଆନ୍ତି ତ ସେଇଥିରେ ସେଟା ତାଙ୍କର ଲର୍ନିଂ କୁହାଯିବନି ହେଲା ଡକଲିଂ ମାନେ ଡକ୍ ମାନେ ଚାଲୁଥିବେ ଦେଖିବ ତା ପଛରେ ଛୋଟ ଛୋଟ ଡକଲିଂ ମାନେ ବି ସେମିତି ଚାଲୁଥିବେ ତ there it means that if there is no change at the cognitive level but you have learned something that is never called as learning that is called as imprinting କେବଳ imprint କରିବା ମନେକର ତମେ କିଛି ଜିନିଷ ମନେକର ତମକୁ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ କିଏ ଲେଖୁଛି ତମେ ତାଠୁ ଦେଖି ଦେଖି ଖାଲି ଲେଖି ଦଉଛ ସେଟାକୁ ଆମେ ଲର୍ନିଂ କହିବା କି
No, ma'am.
टीचर ब्लैक बोर्ड हाँ टीचर ब्लैक बोर्ड रे लेखुचंती पिलामाने केवल देखि देखि कि सेठू खातारे उतारुछ किछि सेमाने सिखि नाहांती सेमानकर किछि अंडरस्टैंडिंग नाही कि किछि सेमाने एनालाइज करू नाहांती कि किछि नै केवल सेमाने देखि देखि करूछन दैट इज नेवर कॉल्ड एज लर्निंग दैट इज कॉल्ड एज इम्प्रिंटिंग केवल ब्लाइंडली फॉलो करिवा हैला दैट इज कॉल्ड एज इम्प्रिंटिंग जेमति हमर केते गुडा ब्लाइंड बिलीफ्स अछि एमिति करले खराब हो हमकु कहिचंती आमे जानि ने किछि भी ताकु केबे एनालाइज करिनि आमर घरे आमर आमर सीनियर्स माने हो कि आमर फोरफादर्स हो हमकु कहिचंती आमे ताकु केवल ब्लाइंडली एक्सेप्ट करि दैछि so that is called as the imprinting जेमति आमे किए कहले जे सोमवार आमिष खाइले खराब आम कि कहिछि आमे खाली जस्ट फॉलो कर दिछि किंतु आमे केबे चिंता करने कोन खराब जदि सोमवार आमिष खाइले खराब मंगलवार खाइले खराब नै काहे खराब नै we never analyze it we have learned just as a blind beliefs so those are called as the imprinting बुझि परलो
yes ma'am
जोटे कि कॉग्निटिव रो किछि चेंज आसे कॉग्निटिव रो किछि रोल न थाए केवल हमें से जिंसटा ब्लाइंडली सिखितो जेमति पिला माने चप्पल पिंदिबार सिखि जान सेथिर तांगर कोन चिंता करी कि सिखंती कि ना अन्य माने को देखंती केमति चप्पल पिंचुती पिलाटा भी से तार ऑटोमेटिक सिखि गला ओके से माने चप्पल गळेबा सिखिला जो जस्ट केते जिनिस हम लाइफ रो हमें बहुत जिंस इम्प्रिंटिंग रे सिखितो विदाउट एनी इंटरफेरेंस ऑफ आवर ब्रेन सेथिरे ब्रेन रो इंटरफेरेंस किछि न थाए so those are called as the imprinting so that cannot be called as also learning okay change in behavior due to maturation is also not learning माने बयस बढ़िबा सहित ऑटोमेटिक केतरा जिंस मनुष्य सिखि जाय सेटा को भी लर्निंग कहा जाय नाही काइना मैच्योरेशन सहित जेते हमें मैच्योर हो अकॉर्डिंग टू एज वी लर्न सर्टेन थिंग्स so that is called as never called as learning जेमते हमें जानू छ हम भाषा विषय रे हमर किछि ज्ञान न थाय कि मध्य गोटे पिला गोटे पर्टिकुलर लैंग्वेज कहि देई पारे कैन वी कॉल इट इज लर्निंग नो हला तो सेमी लर्निंग रो एठी लर्निंग को फोकस करिवार अर्थ होची जोठी हमर कॉग्निटिव लेवल रे किछि चेंज हे कि हमें जो जिनिस सिखू ताकू कहा जाय लर्निंग एंड दैट आल्सो इन ए पॉजिटिव डायरेक्शन नॉट इन द नेगेटिव ओके so real learning is always occur at the cognitive level and learning is always measured through performance केमिति ना learning is not आमे कहबा जे गोटे जिंस गोटे लोक गोटे सिखिछि किंतु जदि किछि करि पारनी then that also never called as learning learning is always measured in terms of work in terms of performance then only it can be if something output must be there then only it can be called as learning so learning ro ye hochi learning kono performance of the learning और न्यू लर्निंग ए जिंस भी लर्निंग केते बेले हो जदि लर्निंग हेची परफॉर्म हमें से लर्निंग टाको परफॉर्म करि परिबार अछि देन ओनली इट कैन बी कन्वर्ट टू ए न्यू लर्निंग सो दीज आर द रियल द मीनिंग ऑफ द लर्निंग फ्रॉम द डिफरेंट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू बुझी परलो टिके
yes ma'am
आमे लेमन हिसाब रे कहि दो एटा लर्निंग सेटा किंतु रियल मीनिंग ऑफ लर्निंग इज दैट what we learn at our cognitive level with certain modification in our behavior or with certain change in terms of doing a work then only it can be called as learning okay so ei jo eguda ko सब हमर learning ऊपर misconception जे imprinting is a learning instinctive behavior is a learning reflexive action is a learning so eguda ko hochi हमर misconception जे these are also called as learning but these are never called as the real learning okay then next we will come to types of learning what are the different types of learnings are there types of learning learning can be different types from the cognitive point of view it can be called as the cognitive learning and when it is there in terms of the skill it can be called as the psychomotor learning and certain things related to our feelings related to our attitude then it is called as the affective learning then collateral learning or learning of values attitudes etc are called as the concomitant learning or we can say that collateral learning and another is the discrimination in learning learning to differentiate compare are called as the discrimination learning तो ये जो हमें लर्निंग एबे वर्तमान जस्ट टिके तार कांसेप्ट डिस्कशन कले से लर्निंग भी डिफरेंट टाइप अछि ओके एंड दैट लर्निंग आर डिफरेंट टाइप्स फ्रॉम द डिफरेंट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ए तीनटा जिंस समस्त बुझी परलो कॉग्निटिव साइकोमोटो एंड इफेक्टिव ए तीनटा जिंस बुझी परलो
yes ma'am
ओके कहिलो मते ताले कोन बुझिलो कॉग्निटिव लर्निंग कोन
ma'am
को प्रकार लर्निंग को हमें को
ma'am cognitive learning occurs the sphere of understanding knowledge As like
Yes.
example, in our primary or in our certain age, we learn about numbers, and after learning numbers, we learn about how to add them, subtract them. So it happens in
Hmm.
cognitive sphere. So it is known as cognitive learning. Then psychomotor
Okay.
learning, it is the hands-on activity or the activity through the activity we learn something. Uh,
Hmm.
just like uh, how to
Cognitive
write
learning
or how
ହଁ
to.
ଠିକ ଅଛି ତମେ ଠିକ ହଁ ଠିକ କଥା ମାନେ ଠିକ ତମର କନସେପ୍ଟ କ୍ଲାରିଟି ଅଛି ଯେ କଗ୍ନିଟିଭ ଲର୍ଣ୍ଣିଂ ହଉଛି ଯୋଉ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡାକ ଆମର କଗ୍ନିଟିଭ ଲେଭେଲ ରେ we acquire the knowledge ହଁ we understand certain things when we understand how ମାନେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ understand କରିଛୁ ବୋଲି କେମିତି ଜଣା ପଡିବ when we are able to
Ma'am, your voice is not clearly audible.
analyze, when we are able to synthesize, when we are able to compare, when we are able to describe, explain, এই ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡା ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ understanding, then apply କରିପାରିବା ଯୋଉ ଜିନିଷଟା ଆମେ ଶିଖୁଛେ ତା day to day life. not audible? ଆରେ ଏବେ ଶୁଣାଗଲା? ଆରେ ଏବେ ଶୁଣା ଯାଉଛି?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, now it
ଏବେ
is audible.
ଶୁଣାଗଲା?
Yes, ma'am.
ଆଚ୍ଛା ଠିକ ଅଛି ଆଚ୍ଛା
Yes, ma'am.
ତ ଯୋଉ cognitive learning ର ଅର୍ଥ ହଉଛି
Yes,
ହଁ
ma'am.
when we acquire knowledge. Yes,
Agya.
yes. When we acquire certain knowledge and we are able to understand the concept, we are able to apply it in our day to day life, then it is called as a cognitive learning. Cognitive level ରେ ଆମର ଯେମିତି ଆମେ ପଢିଥିଲେ ଯେ ଯେମିତି ତମେ ଏଇ ଇଏରେ ଦେଖିଥିବ cognitive domain, affective domain, psychomotor domain ଯୋଉ ଆମେ ପଢୁଥିଲେ ଯେ କୌଣସି ଜିନିଷର knowledge level କୁ ଜାଣିବା ତାକୁ ବୁଝିବା ତାକୁ
Yes,
analyze
ma'am.
କରିପାରିବା ତାକୁ synthesize କରିପାରିବା compare କରିପାରିବା describe କରିପାରିବା ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡାକୁ ଆମେ କହୁ apply କରିପାରିବା ତାକୁ apply କରିକି day to day problem solve କରିପାରିବା. These all are called as the cognitive level learning. But certain skills are also there ଯୋଉଟାକ କି ଆମର ବଡିର ସାଇକୋମୋଟୋ ଏବିଲିଟି ସହିତ ରିଲେଟେଡ ଥାଏ. that is called as the psychomotor learning. ଯେମିତି କି ସ୍କିଲ୍ ଲର୍ନିଂ ଇଜ କଲ୍ଡ ଏଜ ଏ ସାଇକୋମୋଟୋ ଲର୍ନିଂ. ଯେମିତି ଲେଖିବା ଶିଖିବା ଯଦି ଆମେ ଲେଖିବା ଯଦି ଆମର ସାଇକୋମୋଟୋ ଡେଭଲପ ନା ଆମ ଆଙ୍ଗୁଠି ଗୁଡାକର ଡେଭଲପମେଣ୍ଟ ହେଇନି ଗୋଟେ ଛୁଆ କେବେ ବି ଲେଖିପାରିବ ନାହିଁ. ତାର ଆଙ୍ଗୁଠିର ମସଲ ଗୁଡାକ ତାର ଷ୍ଟ୍ରଙ୍ଗ ହବା ଦରକାର. then only the child can hold the pen or pencil and can write. ଓକେ ତ ସାଇକେଲ ଚଲେଇବା ଶିଖିବା
Yes,
ଡ୍ରଇଂ
ma'am.
କରିବା ଶିଖିବା ଦୌଡ଼ିବା ଶିଖିବା ଏସବୁକୁ ଆମେ କହୁଛେ ସାଇକୋମୋଟୋ ଲର୍ନିଂ ଯୋଉଟାକ କି ଆମର ଫିଜିକାଲ ର ରିଲେଟେଡ ଥାଏ ମୋଟର ଏବିଲିଟି ସହିତ ରିଲେଟେଡ ଥାଏ. those are called as the psychomotor learning. okay next
Yes,
ହଉଛି
ma'am.
କଣ affective learning. affective learning is certain learning related to hearts. ଯେମିତି ଆମେ କହିବା cognitive learning is related to head. okay
Yes.
psychomotor
Yes,
learning
ma'am.
is related to hand and effective learning is related to heart. ମାନେ କଣ ନା certain feelings କୁ ବୁଝି ପାରିବା ଇମୋସନ କୁ ଜାଣି ପାରିବା ଇମୋସନ ଗୁଡାକ
Yes, ma'am.
ଶିଖିବା. okay so
Control
those
kariba.
are called as the effective learning. those are called as
Learning.
the effective learning. ବୁଝିପାରିଲ ସେମିତି କେତେ
Yes, ma'am.
ଜିନିଷ ଅଛି ଆମର ଯୋଉ ଲର୍ନିଂ ଆମକୁ ଆମର ଲାଇଫ ରେ ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ସୋସାଇଟି ଆମ ବେସିସ୍ ଅଫ ଦ our culture, on the basis of our society, on the basis of our nation, we learn certain values and attitudes. And those are called as the collateral learning. The value ku learn kariba, attitude learn kariba is called as the collateral learning. We all are now the citizen of India. And being a citizen of India, we clearly understand what is democracy. Democracy mane kon. But the people who are living in a country where democracy is not going to be practiced, then how they will understand what is democracy? Okay. So we are living in a nation
Yes, ma'am.
with unity in diversity. India is such a country, all type of diversities are there. But still, by being the citizen of our country like India, we know how to give respect to all type of diversity. Because we know in India we all differ in terms of our language, in terms of our religion, in terms of our physical setup, everything. But still we learn how to give respect to diversity. एते भिन्नता रहिले मध्ये हम सब प्रकार भिन्नता को केमती एक्सेप्ट करिवा एज ए इंडियन हमर पिला मानको हम पिला दिनु से विषय रे स्कूल रे पाठ पढो जे एटे डिफरेंट लैंग्वेज अलगा हले भी बा डिफरेंट रीजन अलगा हले भी डिफरेंट कास्ट अलगा हले भी डिफरेंट रिलीजन अलगा हले भी वी ऑल आर द इंडियंस. So these are the certain values, certain attitudes we are going to develop among our children because we are living such a nation. Amare ame se type ro country re ame rahuche, but the people who are belonging to only to a particular religion country, they will not understand all these values and things. Okay, so such type of learning is called as the collateral learning. Buji parlo?
Yes, ma'am.
What is collateral learning?
Yes, ma'am.
It is related to us, that's why we have learned. Okay, but alga country manakare maybe alga jinso joda ki ame jani nahi because we are not living in such type of circumstance. Okay, suppose take example, in Japan people know how to make the arrangement when certain earthquakes are there. Okay, jete disaster asle bhi they know how to make their mind set up and to again to build. Then they will never harass take jani chandi kaina they live in such a country where earthquake is a common phenomena. Sabu bele earthquake हुए तांगर disaster है जे again they used to start from the very beginning. They will never harass. किंतु आम country रे आमी जानी नहीं जे certain किछि गोटे हरा माने disaster असले it will create a tension for us. So according to the certain things, values, attitudes is going to develop on the basis of our certain belongings. So that is called as the collateral learning. Like another thing is that discrimination learning hochi mane differentiate karibar sikhiba, compare karibar sikhiba, eguda ko ame kochu differentiate learning. This is also a certain domain of learning. It is related to cognitive domain also. Okay, so these are the different types of learning. Next we will come, what are the factors affecting learning? को फैक्टर गुडाक लर्निंग को हमर इफेक्ट करे हमें विषय ऑलरेडी जानिचे बहुत जति हमें जनरली देखिबा दीटा जिंस हमर लर्निंग को इफेक्ट करे गोटे होची एनवायरनमेंट आ गोटे होची हेरिडिटी. Okay, hereditally we have learned but because we have inherited certain genes from our forefathers and on the basis of it we have already learned certain things. Okay, so heredity also plays a very important role in the process of learning. ଯେମିତି ଆମେ ଯେମିତି କହୁଛେ ଯେ IQ level କିମ୍ବା ଗୋଟେ particular skill ଯେମିତି ଆମେ ଦେଖୁଛେ ଯେ ଯାର ଫୋର ଫାଦର୍ସ ମାନଙ୍କର ଯୋଉ ସ୍କିଲ୍ ସେମାନେ acquire କରିଛନ୍ତି, ଯାହାର ପ୍ୟାରେଣ୍ଟସ୍ ମାନେ ସିଙ୍ଗର ତାଙ୍କ ଛୁଆ ମାନେ ଭଲ ସିଙ୍ଗର ହବା, ଯାହାର ପ୍ୟାରେଣ୍ଟସ୍ ମାନେ ପ୍ଲେୟର ତାଙ୍କ ଛୁଆ ମାନେ ପ୍ଲେୟର ହବା, କିମ୍ବା ଯାହାବି ଯୋଉ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡାକ ଆମର hereditary ରେ ବି influence करे, that is we can say that heredity also influence the learning, is one of the factors which influence the learning, but it is not the all in all. Beyond that, environment also plays a very important role for learning. Kaina jo environment re jete scope diya jaye, on the basis of it a individual learn. So both heredity and environment plays very important role for affecting the learning process. ता बादे आहुरी certain factor जोड़ा को अच्छी जोड़ा कि हमर learning को affect करे, and those are the motivation, psychological needs, self concepts, level of aspiration, goal, interest, study and work habits. These all are the certain things. But आमे जदि देखिबा environment रे जोटा कि most of the things will come under environment which is going to influence the learning. बुझी परलो इटा factors affecting learning?
Yes, ma'am.
ए आ ऊपर किछि डाउट अछि? पढ़ो ए स्लाइड टे टिके पढ़ो, जदि किछि डाउट अछि पचारिबो ताल डिस्कशन में, because these are the easy things. जदि किछि डाउट अछि पचारो ताले को पॉइंट जो पॉइंटटा बुझी परनो हम सेथिरे डिस्कशन कर.
मैडम किसी देखा होनी
देखा जाउनी? अरे काहा को भी देखा जाउनी?
नहीं मैम
No, ma'am.
मते तो सब देखा जाउची. रो रो वेट आउ थरे शेयर करछ. एबे देखा गला एबे देखा गला
yes ma'am.
हाँ देखो ए स्लाइड टा देखो फैक्टर्स इफेक्टिंग लर्निंग एथिरे केते गुडा पॉइंट मु मेंशन करिछि ए पॉइंट गुडा को आमे तो वर्तमान लर्निंग कोन जानिले क्लियर आ टाइप्स ऑफ लर्निंग कोन केते प्रकार को लेवल रे चेंज हिला आमे सेटा को लर्निंग कहू आ प्लस केते जिनिस हमर लर्निंग को इफेक्ट करे से फैक्टर गुडा को मु लिखिछि जोटा की कहली हेरिडिटी प्लेज अ वेरी इंपोर्टेंट रोल सेमती एनवायरनमेंट प्लेज अ वेरी इंपोर्टेंट रोल एंड बियॉन्ड दैट मोटिवेशन साइकोलॉजिकल नीड्स सेल्फ concepts level of aspiration, goal, interest, study and work habits. These are the certain factors mostly influencing learning. ए सब फैक्टर विषय रे किछि जदि बुझी परनो ताले पचारो डिस्कशन करिया नाही जदि हम आगु बुझिबा बुझी परछो सब
Yes ma'am.
ओके देन हम ताले आगु बुझिबा प्रोसीड करिवा
Yes ma'am.
यस एगुडा को तो हम जहा देखले फ्रॉम द सेल्फ पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू दीज आर द फैक्टर्स इफेक्टिंग लर्निंग टीचर रिलेटेड फैक्टर्स टीचर को जिनस गुड़ाक आमर लर्निंग को इन्फ्लुएंस करे एथिरे भी केतेटा पॉइंट अछि एथिरे मेंशन करिछि जे पर्सनालिटी ऑफ द टीचर इज इन गोइंग टू इन्फ्लुएंस द लर्निंग प्रोसेस ऑफ द चाइल्ड आर यू एग्री विथ मी टीचर रो पर्सनालिटी भी कोन इन्फ्लुएंस करे कि लर्निंग को
Yes ma'am.
okay then communication style of the teacher how the teacher is going to communicate that also influence the learning of the child okay leadership quality teaching style interpersonal relationship of the teacher these all are the factors of the teacher is also going to influence the learning of the child एथरे तमे एकमत मो कथा रे एकमत जे सतरे टीचर रो ए सब गुडा को मध्य पिलार लर्निंग को इन्फ्लुएंस करे
Yes ma'am.
मते कहीं ताहले गोटे एग्जांपल दे कहलो हाउ इंटरपर्सनल रिलेशनशिप ऑफ द टीचर इज गोइंग टू इन्फ्लुएंस द लर्निंग
Ma'am, that means the behavior of teacher, how the teacher creates the rapport between him or her and students, and how he or she understands the psychology of students, and
ओके तमे बेले बेले देखिथिबो हमर टीचर को नेकी पिला मानकर गोटे सब्जेक्ट पई इंटरेस्ट आसे जदि टीचर भलो थांती गोटे सब्जेक्ट रो गोटे पिलार से सब्जेक्ट प्रति ऑटोमेटिक इंटरेस्ट आसी जाय पढिबा पई जदि मैथ टीचर बहुत भलो अछंती पिलांक सहित तांकर बहुत भलो रिलेशन तांक भितरे बहुत भलो कोलैबोरेशन देन देखिबो पिला मानकर मैथ पढिबा पई बहुत बढ़िया इंटरेस्ट आसी
yes ma'am.
तो आमे सेटा होची इंटरपर्सनल रिलेशनशिप ऑफ द टीचर किंतु देखिबो जेते बेले इंग्लिश टीचर बहुत रागी से सब बेले माने तांकर पर्सनालिटी एमिति जे से पिलांक संगरे से तांकर सेही जो पर्सनालिटी रो टीचरंकर भय जो पिला मानकर सब्जेक्ट पई मध्ये भय आसी जे से सब्जेक्ट को से पढिया को भी भय करन एमिति हुए कि
Yes ma'am.
have you experienced these all the things what I'm going to tell
Yes ma'am.
sometimes on the basis of the personality of the teacher also students love or hate the subject okay so teacher personality plays a very important role for the learning process okay like interpersonal relationship between student and teacher if there is no good relation between teacher and student the child will never interest to learn the particular subject okay that also is going to influence the learning level of the child सेमिति कम्युनिकेशन स्टाइल बेले बेले देखिथिबो टीचर माने एमिति वॉइस रे पढौचोनी गोटे टीचर से बहुत बढ़िया टीचर बहुत भलो पर्सनालिटी बट द कम्युनिकेशन एबिलिटी इज नॉट अप टू द मार्क okay so children will
Yes
not
ma'am.
get the interest to learn the subject okay so communication style leadership ability of the teacher teaching style these all are the factors also is going to influence the learning level of the child okay like this some factors are there related to environment which is also going to influence the learning. Environment related factors kono na physical environment, socio-economic climate, structure of discipline, these all are also the factors is going to influence the learning. ताले मते गोटे एग्जांपल देले इटे केमिति फिजिकल एनवायरनमेंट गोटे प्लेस करी इंपोर्टेंट रोल लर्निंग को इन्फ्लुएंस करबा पई.
मैम साधारणतः साइंस लैबोरेटरी आम जोटा
Yes.
physical environment, then adequate classroom,
Yes.
playground.
ଏଇଠି କହିବା କଥା ଯେ ଫିଜିକାଲ ଏନଭାୟରନମେଣ୍ଟ ଟା ବି ଗୋଟେ ପିଲାର ଲର୍ଣ୍ଣିଂ ପ୍ରୋସେସ କୁ କେମିତି ଇନଫ୍ଲୁଏନ୍ସ କରେ. ମନେକର ସପୋଜ ଦେଖିବା ଆମେ ଯୋଉ ଏରିଆ ଗୁଡାକ ବହୁତ ହଟ୍ ରିଜନ କିମ୍ବା ବହୁତ କୁଲ ହୁଏ, ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଦେଖିବା ଯୋଉ ଏରିଆରେ କେବଳ ବରଫ ପଡୁଛି. ଇଫ୍ ୟୁ ୱିଲ୍ ଗୋ ଟୁ ଦ ନରୱେ, ସ୍ୱିଡେନ, ଓକେ, ମୋଷ୍ଟ ଅଫ ଦ
Yes,
ଟାଇମ
ma'am.
ଇନ୍ ଏ ଇୟର ଦେयर ଇଜ ଦ ସ୍ନୋଫଲ. Okay, so at that time what the people will think about learning, ସେମାନେ learning ବିଷୟରେ କଣ, at every moment they are in a situation how to protect them from the due to the extreme environment. ସେମାନେ କବାଟ ଝରକା ବନ୍ଦ କରିକି ଘର ଭିତରେ କେବଳ ରୁହନ୍ତି କାହିଁକି ନା ସେପଟେ ବହୁତ ତୁଷାରପାତ ବରଫ କେବଳ ପଡେ, 6 ମାସ ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ବରଫ ପଡେ. So definitely it is going to influence the learning of the level of the students. Okay, ସେମିତି ବହୁତ hot climate ରେ ଯୋଉମାନେ ରୁହନ୍ତି desert area ରେ, that is also going to learn. So physical environment जोटे barrier जोटे mountain area रे लोक माने रुहंती जोटे कि कौनसी information पहुंच पारे नाही, जोटे स्कूल हेले भी टीचर माने जानतीनी, जोटे केवटे नेटवर्क आसेनी, तो these are the physical environment. Understand? So physical
Mhm.
barrier is also a barrier which is going to influence the learning level. Okay, like that तमे जेमती कहले classroom environment, कोटे classroom नाही आमे पढेवा कथा कहूचे किंतु कोटे well ventilated classroom नाही. Okay, सेटे माने तार क्लाइमेट भी एमती नाही जे गोटे पर्टिकुलर जगह रे बसी तमे क्लास करि पारिबो. So definitely these all are the factors also is going to influence the learning process. Like that socio-economic climate, it is वर्तमान आमे जहा कथा हले physical climate, like that socio-economic climate is also going to influence the learning. एटे मते गोटे एग्जांपल देला how socio-economic climate is going to influence. ଏବେ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଆମେ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ଯଦି ନବା ଆମର ଯୋଉ ଯୁଦ୍ଧ ଚାଲିଛି କଣ ଇରାନ ଆଉ
Israel.
ହମା ଇସ୍ରାଏଲ ର ଯୁଦ୍ଧ ଚାଲିଛି, ତାଙ୍କର ସୋସିଆଲ କଣ୍ଡିସନ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଏଇଆ, ସେଠି ପିଲାମାନେ ବଞ୍ଚିବା କଥା ଚିନ୍ତା କରିବେ ନା ସ୍କୁଲ କୁ ଯିବା କଥା ଚିନ୍ତା କରିବେ?
ବଞ୍ଚିବା କଥା.
Okay, yes, so social condition is like that, it is definitely it is going to influence their learning process. Yes, ଏବେ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଯୋଉ କରୋନା ଆସିଲା, social condition is become such like that at that moment no one is conscious about the learning. कोडी स्कूल जीवो कोन पिला पाठ पढियो, we are not never conscious about it. Okay, we think about how to live first. Okay, then we think regarding the learning. So socio-economic condition, social climate is such that जदि social disturbance किछि गोटे रहिला, एटा हमर learning process को definitely हमर influence करिवो. सेमती इकोनॉमिक क्लाइमेट डेफिनेटली जोटे कि इकोनॉमिक जो कंट्री पण अफ्रीकन कंट्रीज गुडा जोटे लोकन को खाइबा को मिलुनी, जोटे से मानकर मिनिमम नीड ही फुलफिल हे पाउनी, व्हाट दे विल थिंक अबाउट द लर्निंग. ओके, सो सोशियो इकोनॉमिक क्लाइमेट इज आल्सो गोइंग टू influence the learning. Structure of discipline is also going to influence the learning. हमर डिसिप्लिन ना रे हमर बहुत जगह रे झियो पिला मन को एलाउ करा होनी स्कूल को जिया पे, हमर जेमति देखिलो जो अफगान कंट्री गुडा करे झियो पिला मन को स्कूल जीवा को मना, ताकर विभिन्न प्रकार सोशल रेस्ट्रिक्शंस अछि, ये पढ़िबा मना, ए पाठ पढ़िबा मना, झियो पिला माने ए पाठ पढ़िबा मना. So these are the imposed discipline, unnecessary rules and regulations, those are also the factors which is going to influence the learning. Okay, so these all are the environmental factors related to learning. Then next we will discuss regarding approaches to learning, जोटा कि वर्तमान आमे लास्ट रे जो मोटिवेशन रे टिके टिके डिस्कशन करितिले ए लर्निंग थ्योरी गुडा को इथरे अछि, जोटा कि क्लासिकल कंडीशनिंग ऑफ लर्निंग, जोटा कि पावलोव करितिले. पढुचे ए सब जिंस?
Yes, ma'am.
पावलोव का को नै कि करतिले तांगर एक्सपेरिमेंट, डिफरेंट अप्रोचेस टू लर्निंग रे जो डिफरेंट साइकोलॉजिस्ट डिफरेंट एक्सपेरिमेंट करतिले, जहा द्वारा हमर लर्न हे परछु बोली समाने किछि जनरलाइज करतिले, those will come under the approaches to learning. आमे जदि देखिबा Pavlov कर contribution to the field of learning after his experiment has a ताकर जो experiment रू से जो conclusion रे पहुंचीतिले, it plays a very important role and it has a great contribution to the field of learning. Okay, जानिछ Pavlov काकु नै कि करथिले ताकर experiment कोन experiment करथिले?
Dog.
Yes, dog को नै कि से experiment करथिले. कोन ताकर थिला ताकर थीम टा कोन थिला ताकर थ्योरी रो ताकर experiment रो जे we learn everything in a condition, in a conditioning. ओके, आमे प्रत्येक जिंस गोटे कंडीशनिंग भाबरे आमे लर्न करू सेथिरे से तांकर जनरलाइजेशन थिला जे एवरी मोमेंट ओनली द कॉग्निटिव प्ले इज नॉट गोइंग टू प्ले अ वेरी इंपोर्टेंट रोल, मेनी थिंग्स वी लर्न ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ कंडीशनिंग. हमर कंडीशन हे जाई थाए जेमति आमे जे सब बेले केवल ब्रेन रो इंटरफेरेंस रे आमे गोटे जिंस लर्न करूछु ताहा नो ऑटोमेटिक बाय चांस आमे सेरा देखि देखि करी करी आमे गोटे जिंस सिखि जाई थाउ. सेटा को से कह जे कंडीशनिंग ऑफ लर्निंग. जेमति बेलटा बाजिला माने ता पाटनी सलाइवा बाहुतला से जो डॉग रो हैला काहे कि ना बेल बाजिला परे सबका को खाइबा प्लेट दिया होतला तो खाइबा प्लेट देखि कि तार सलाइवा बाहुतला किंतु किछि दिन परे देखा गेला जे बेलटा बाजिले ही ता पाटू सलाइवा बाहरला काहे ना से जानि छी बेल बाजिला माने मते खाइबा को मिलियो. ओके, हमर केतरा जिंस कंडीशनिंग हे जाइता जेमति हमें गाड़ी चलेबा सिखिबा ओडा ऑटोमेटिक हमर ऑटोमेटिक आसी जाई थे जे गाड़ी प्रथमे जे हम नुवा नुवा गाड़ी सिखु सेतले हमर ब्रेन रो इंटरफेरेंस आसे किंतु ऑटोमेटिक सिखिला परे हमर ऑटोमेटिक हे जाय जे हम ए जिंसटा चालिबा सिखिबा सब बेला हमें चालिबी भाबी कि चालु नता छोटो पिला बेले हमें चालिबा सिखिचो इट्स बिकम ए कंडीशन. ओके, वी लर्न केमते ड्रेस पिंदिबा सिखिबा चप्पल पिंदिबा सिखिबा किबा जे कोनोसी जिंस जोडा के हमें करी करी सिखि जाई था दोज आर कॉल्ड एज द कंडीशन. कंडीशन हे जाई था हमर. So that is called as the conditioning. जोटा कि तांकर Pavlov को theory रो contribution थिला जे बहुत जिंस in the field of learning the children can learn by help of conditioning and interference of the role of the brain and cognition is less emphasized by Pavlov. Okay, next we will come to operant conditioning. Operant conditioning का द्वारा है develop हितला both Skinner और Thorndike दुई जण मिसिक रे थ्योरी टा करितिले जो थरे कि सेमाने इंपोर्टेंस देथिले रीइंफोर्समेंट प्लेज अ वेरी इंपोर्टेंट रोल इन लर्निंग हला. थॉर्नडाइक का को नै करथिले कि कहि परिबो तांगर एक्सपेरिमेंट? अरे पढिछो थॉर्नडाइक को थ्योरी पढिछो कि नो?
सिंपाजिना
कैट को नै कि करथिले, स्किनर रैट को नै कि करथिले, थॉर्नडाइक कैट को नै कि करथिले, कोहलबर्ग करथिले जोटा से सिंपाजी को नै कि करथिले. ओके, कोहलबर्ग जोटा करथिले से सेटा सिंपाजी को नै कि करथिले. ऑपरेंट कंडीशनिंग जोटा थॉर्नडाइक और स्किनर करथिले सेथिरे से देखिले जे जेतेबेले रिवार्ड दिया होची जेतेबेले रीइंफोर्समेंट दिया होची सेतेबेले रेट ऑफ लर्निंग टा बढ़ी बढ़ी जाउची. सेटा फेरे कोन नेचुरल रीइंफोर्समेंट आउडेला artificial reinforcement. Okay, both natural reinforcement and artificial reinforcement plays very important role in the process of learning to enhance the learning. Okay, so that was the gist of the operant conditioning theory developed by Thorndike and Skinner. सेमती बंदुरंकर थिला जोटा theory of learning that is called as the theory of social learning. सुनिचो बंदुरा?
Yes ma'am.
से कौन कहिथिले कि कहि परिबो? मने नहीं हो?
No ma'am.
अच्छा, बंदुरंकर थ्योरी तांकर थ्योरी रो नाम ही तमे जानि परिबो. It is called as a social learning. According to him, society plays a very important role in the process of learning. जोटा कि हमें next slide रे जो factors रे discussion करूथले social condition plays according to बंदुरा गोटे इंडिविजुअल को जो प्रकार सोसाइटी मिले जो प्रकार सोशल एक्सपोजर मिले से इंडिविजुअल से रेट रे तार लर्निंग टा ही थाए. ओके, सपोज टेक एग्जांपल जो पिला माने गां रे और गां रो एनवायरनमेंट रो एक्सपोजर पाती ସେମାନେ ସେ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡାକ ବହୁତ ଭଲ ଭାବରେ ଶିଖି ଯାଆନ୍ତି। କିନ୍ତୁ ଯୋଉ ପିଲାମାନେ ଗୋଟେ ସିଟିରେ ରହିକି ଗୋଟେ ମଡର୍ନ ଜିନିଷର ଏକ୍ସପୋଜର ପାଆନ୍ତି ସେମାନେ ସେଇ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡାକ ଶିଖି ଯାଆନ୍ତି। କିନ୍ତୁ ଗାଁରେ ବଢିଥିବା ପିଲାଟା ଟାଉନକୁ ଆସିଲା ପରେ ତାର ସେଇ ପ୍ରକାର ଲର୍ଣ୍ଣିଂ ନଥାଏ। ସେମିତି ଟାଉନରେ ବଢିଥିବା ପିଲାଟା ଗାଁକୁ ଗଲା ପରେ ଯୋଉ ଗୁଡାକ ଆମର ସୋସିଆଲ କଣ୍ଡିସନର ଲର୍ଣ୍ଣିଂ ସେଗୁଡାକ ତାର ନଥାଏ। ତ according to Bandura, the individual which is getting more exposure to the society, जे सोसाइटी सहित जार इंटरेक्शन जेते अधिका से इंडिविजुअल रो लर्निंग सेते अधिका हेइଥାଏ। सोसाइटी प्लेज अ वेरी इंपोर्टेंट रोल इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ लर्निंग according to Bandura। बुझी परलो?
yes ma'am।
आ किछि डाउट अछि? अभी ए जो हमें वर्तमान पैवलव डिस्कशन कले, थॉर्नडाइक डिस्कशन कले, स्किनर कले, बंदुरा कले, ए रिलेटेड यदि किछि डाउट अछि पचार ताले आगु को आउथरे नहले जिबा। जो अप्रोचेस टू लर्निंग रे मु कहूची जस्ट मु तार थीम टा कहूची, तमे पूराटा थ्योरी टा पढिले तार डिटेल जानिमो, किंतु से जो थ्योरी टा डेवलप कला पर लास्ट को से कोथिरे पहुंची चंदी तांकर जिस टा कोन मु तुमको से जिंसटा कहूची। बुझी परले ए सब थ्योरी गुडा को पैवलव, थॉर्नडाइक, स्किनर, बंदुरा।
yes ma'am।
ओके, किसी डाउट नहीं? ताले नेक्स्ट आमे जिबा इंफॉर्मेशन प्रोसेसिंग। इंफॉर्मेशन प्रोसेसिंग थ्योरी एठरे इंपोर्टेंस दिया है जे लर्निंग इज लाइक ए प्रोसेसिंग ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन। जेमति हमरो गोटे इंफॉर्मेशन को आमे जेमति हमरो इंफॉर्मेशन प्रोसेसिंग रे आमे देखु आईसीटी रे देखु गोटे इनपुट देले सेटा प्रोसेस हे कि हमरो आउटपुट रे बाहरुची, सेमिति लर्निंग इज आल्सो ए सेम प्रोसेस। अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस व्यू लर्निंग इज आल्सो हमरो कोन हुए लर्निंग पे किछि इनपुट होची, हमरो जो आमे सराउंडिंग रे जहा देखुची हमरो तो जिंस गुडा को आमे जहा परसीव करूचे बाहरु दैट इज ए इनपुट and our thought and beliefs are the things which give a condition for the processing of the information and आम भितरे सब बेले प्रोसेसिंग चली थाए। आमे गोटे जिंस जेतो गोटे इंडिविजुअल सिखे से प्रथमे बाहरु किछि जिंस रिसीव करे, जो जिंसटा रिसीव करे दैट इज कॉल्ड एज ए इनपुट and after receiving the things it is going to process within ourselves on the basis of our thoughts and beliefs, and after that it is going to convert into our action and work, that is called as the output. So according to this learning is like a information processing theory। बुझी परला? information processing माने बुझी परछो जोठी की information
ma'am।
माने input गोटे अछि, process गोटे अछि, output गोटे अछि। सेमिति इंडिविजुअल र लर्निंग मध्य सेमिति आमर इनपुट आमे कोठु पाउ ना आमर सराउंडिंग आमे चारि पटरे जहा आमे देखु सुनु किबा किछि हमकु हम डायरेक्ट एक्सपीरियंस करू सेउडा कहूचे आमर इनपुट। तापरे जहा आमे करूचे समस्त तो सेम जिंस देखुचे किंतु कोन समस्त एका प्रकार सिखुचंदी कि नो, कोन वे एवरी टाइम आमो भितरे गोटे आमर प्रोसेस चली थाए। जो जिंसटा को आमे अधिक स्ट्रेस दो आमे जोटर आमर इंटरेस्ट थाए आमे जो जिंसटा को बेसी एनालाइज करू आम निजर थॉट को बिलीफ को ता सहित ऐड करू सेटा को आमे प्रोसेस करू तापर आमे एटा जानिमा दरकार बोले आमे ताको एक्सेप्ट करू देन इट इज गोइंग टू कन्वर्ट इनटू ए प्रोसेसिंग and after that it is going to convert in terms of our action amar katha re ho kimba kamo re ho it is going to express, then it is called as the output। so this is the information processing theory of learning। जेमिति information process वे सेमिति learning मध्य गोटे individual भितरे से वे रे ही process होई थाए। okay understand?
Ma'am, can information processing learning be equivalent to maturation?
Not always। सबु बेले हुएनी। मैच्यूरेशन इज ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ ए पर्टिकुलर एज। बयस बढ़िया सहित आम सर्टेन जिनस शिखी जाऊ, जेमती आम कहू वर्षटा हो गोटे पिलाटा चलो 3 मास 4 मास माने माने उल्टीबो एडाक जो लर्निंग गुडाक हुए दैट इज ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ मैच्यूरेशन हैला। 2 वर्ष होला परे कथा कहिबो हां दैट इज कॉल्ड एज ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ मैच्यूरेशन। किंतु इंफॉर्मेशन प्रोसेसिंग ता सबु बेले समस्तन पई एका हबो माने नु।
ओके मैम।
ओके
ओके मैम।
Then another is the constructivist approach. Constructivist approach रे importance दिया है जी जे learning means there is an important role of cognition. Without cognition the learning cannot be possible. Without brain the learning cannot be possible. ए theory रे हमर ए approach रे importance दिया गला जे जार brain जेते अधिका काम करे तार learning process सेते सार. The brain, the function of the brain is emphasized for the learning, and that is called as the cognitive constructivist approach. Okay. एइथिरे फेरे बहुत गुडा जिंस अछि कंस्ट्रक्टिविस्ट अप्रोच रो कॉग्निशन को तो बेसी इंपोर्टेंस दिया आइछि किंतु एइथिरे इंपोर्टेंस दिया आइछि एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ द चाइल्ड. इट मींस एवरी इंडिविजुअल लर्न ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ हिज ओन रेस एंड पेस. आमे प्रत्येक लोक जहा सिखिचे से हमर निज एफर्ट रे ही हमें निजे सिखिचे. किए काहाको किछि सिखै पारेनी दुनिया रे केबे भी किए काहाको किछि सिखै पारेनी जेते समय पर्यंत निजे तमे इंटरेस्ट न होइछो गोटे जिंस सिखिबा पाई. So that is the gist of the constructivist approach. जेथि पे हमें जो जिनिस सिखिचे the credit is for us and जो जिनिस सिखि पारने the blame is also for us. जोटा मु आज पर्यंत सिखि पारनी माने मोर सेतिर इंटरेस्ट नाही बोली मु सिखि पारनी आ मु जहा सिखिची माने मोर ओन इंटरेस्ट अछि बोली मु सिखिची जोटा कि कंस्ट्रक्टिविस्ट मानकर व्यू हला सेटा कोन किंतु एक्सपीरियंस प्लेज अ वेरी इंपोर्टेंट रोल. जार जेते एक्सपोजर अछि बाहर को that individual will learn very fast. So experience plays a very important role in the learning process according to constructivist, and for that purpose the role of the brain is highly emphasized. हैला एइथिरे भी विभिन्न प्रकार जमन हमर इंक्वायरी लर्निंग अछि, प्रॉब्लम बेस्ड लर्निंग अछि, कोऑपरेटिव लर्निंग अछि, इंस्ट्रक्शनल लर्निंग अछि, cognitive apprenticeship अछि. ए सब गुडा के थ्योरी विल कम अंडर द कंस्ट्रक्टिविस्ट अप्रोच. ए सब जिंस गुडा को ए कंस्ट्रक्टिविस्ट अप्रोच अंडर रे आसीबो. पडारो बहुत गुडाए थ्योरी अछि तमे तमर मॉड्यूल रे बहुत भलरे एक्सप्लेन हेछि जति टिके पढिबो ताहाले भलरे बुझि परिबो. पढ तमे जदि तमर किछि डाउट अछि ताहाले भी हमर आउरी क्लास अछि आउरी तीनटा क्लास अछि हम डिस्कशन करिबा हला. एबे एबे किछि डाउट अछि पचारिबो कंस्ट्रक्टिविस्ट अप्रोच ऊपर किए कहि परिबो को साइकोलॉजिस्ट को थ्योरी को कंस्ट्रक्टिविस्ट अप्रोच थ्योरी कहा जाए.
मैम विगोस्की.
यस वेरी गुड. विगोस्की को थ्योरी कंस्ट्रक्टिविस्ट. आउ किए कहि परिबो आउ ना कार ठीक अछि. विगोस्की को थ्योरी रे कोन कोन कंस्ट्रक्टिविस्ट रे जे कोउडा ऊपर एम्फासिस दिया हेछि.
मैम जोन ऑफ प्रोक्सिमल डेवलपमेंट.
यस आउ
सोशल लैंग्वेज
स्कैफोल्डिंग. हां स्कैफोल्डिंग आ गोटे दिया हेछि जोन ऑफ प्रॉक्सिमल डेवलपमेंट. गोटे पर्टिकुलर टाइम रे प्रत्येक इंडिविजुअल कर सिखिबार गोटे जोन थाए से टाइम रे से जोन रे समस्त सिखंती. नेक्स्ट इज दैट रिगार्डिंग द स्कैफोल्डिंग. स्कैफोल्डिंग मींस बीइंग विथ ए लर्न इंडिविजुअल. से समय गोटे लर्न इंडिविजुअल सहित रहिले गोटे पिलार लर्निंग प्रोसेस ता अधिक रेट रे हेता. ओके.
यस मैम.
Yes, next is that humanistic learning. Humanistic learning माने student centered pedagogy, discovery learning, cooperative learning, these all will come under the humanistic learning. Okay. इटरे कोन emphasis दिया हेछि ना learner को ऊपर importance दिया हेछि. Okay. As a learner, how individual learn. As we know that every individual differ from each other. Okay, our thought, our beliefs, our mental dispositions, each and everything, there is no such two individuals who are exactly equal. Okay, we all differ from each other, but that same individual himself or herself is responsible for the learning. Okay, so that's why because I'm learn kaha dwara huye gote particular individual dwara huye, so on the basis of the need of that individual learning is going to occur. सेथि आमे कोन कहूचे ना हमर स्टूडेंट सेंटर्ड पिला माने आमे किछि काको पढेबा इज नॉट इंपोर्टेंट किंतु किए केते पढिला सेटा होची इंपोर्टेंट. So what I am going to teaching is not important, learning is important, but till now our education system is such that we always give more emphasis on teaching. टीचर केते भल पढ़ेले जे पिला सिखि जीवो ता नुह, किंतु हमर कोन हुए ना, हम टीचिंग को ही सबले इंपोर्टेंस दो, किंतु पिला केते पढ़िला इट इज नेग्लेक्टेड. But we now realize that we must give focus on learning level of the child, what the children are going to learn. And we know that learning is not equal for all. Every student's learning level differ from each other. So we must plan for the student centered pedagogy. We must give importance on discovery learning, cooperative learning. These all are the humanistic learning approach. ହେଲା, पिला मानकर नीड अनुसार तांको कोटा कहार लर्निंग हवा दरकार, सेमती आमे पढ़ेवा ऊपर इंपोर्टेंस न दे कि पिला मानको निजे एक्सपेरिमेंट करिवा, सेमानको डिस्कवर करिया पई स्कोप दवा, देन ओनली देयर लर्निंग विल बी अकर. कोऑपरेटिव लर्निंग, सेमाने सेमानको भितर मिसिकरी काम करिवा, कोऑपरेटिव माने पीयर ग्रुप रे रही कि लर्न करिवा, ए सब जिंस ऊपर फोकस करिवा दरकार, बिकॉज़ दीज प्लेज अ वेरी इंपोर्टेंट रोल फॉर द रियल लर्निंग. So these are the different approaches of learning. Next is in this unit is about the special education. भाबुची आज बोधे तो टाइम हे गेलानी, आ गोटे मिनिट कोन 2 मिनिट अछि, आ स्पेशल एजुकेशन हमें नेक्स्ट क्लास रे आरंभ करिवा.
ओके मैम.
एबे
Thank you,
पर्यंत
ma'am.
जहाँ डिस्कशन कले, जदि किछि काहर किछि कोन कि पचारिबार अछि पचार, आ नेक्स्ट क्लास हमें स्पेशल एजुकेशन ऊपर डिस्कशन करिवा, काहे कि एटा गोटे बड़ टॉपिक. स्पेशल एजुकेशन भी समस्त पढ़िथिबो, नेक्स्ट क्लास रो सेटा आरंभ करिया, नुवा टॉपिक रे नुवा ये रे आरंभ करिवा. हमें बे ब्लॉक 3 डिस्कशन
मैम
करूछ, हमरा आ गोटे ब्लॉक रहला.
मैम आमे जो
हाँ कुह.
डिस्कशन कले बांदुरांगर सोशल कंडीशनिंग थ्योरी, सेटा को अप्रोच को बिलोंग करूची?
सोशल लर्निंग इज इटसेल्फ इज अप्रोच.
ओके मैम.
सोशल लर्निंग itself is approach. मु तो जे सब गुडा जोडा कहछि सब गुडा गोटे approach, approaches of learning. Classical conditioning is approach, operant conditioning is approach, social learning is approach, information processing information is approach, constructivist approach, humanistic approach. ए सब गुडा गोटे गोटे approach.
ओके मैम.
ओके,
यस मैम.
आउ कहार किछि डाउट अछि? Okay, so we will end here.
ओके मैम. थैंक यू.
ओके, थैंक यू ऑल. अरे समस्त टिके टाइम रे जॉइन करो, सब दिन लेट रे जॉइन करछो, 5 मिनिट परे ही समस्त जॉइन करछो, आ 5 मिनिट आगु जॉइन कले कोन असुविधा?
आगे मैम.
हैला, नेक्स्ट क्लास समस्त 5:15 सुधा जॉइन करि जीवो. ओके,
आगे मैम.
ओके, थैंक यू ऑल.
ओके मैम.